I offered for them to work with me. Everything was going fine.
A contractor builds a family business.
You started a job that your mother had gotten and you didn't complete it.
And Mom tries to keep things on the level.
Were you ever cited or fined for work on that job?
No, I was not.
Yes, he was. He did not have a contractor's license.
You didn't have a license and you didn't do the work. There were a lot of people that got hustled here.
Judge Judy.
You are about to enter the courtroom of Judge Judith Scheindlin. This is Judge Judy.
Gage Johnson is suing his mother, Tessa Johnson, and his sister, 22-year-old Marina Johnson, for fraud and misappropriation of funds regarding his construction business.
Order. All rise. It's case number 535 on the calendar, the matter of Johnson versus Johnson.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Folks, have a seat.
Mr. Johnson, the defendants are your mother and your sister.
Yes, ma'am.
You went into some sort of a construction business with them. Very briefly, tell me what it was.
Well, I already own a construction company in Dallas, and they live in Spokane, Washington. I was picking up some jobs up there already. So I was up there looking at one of the jobs that I was possibly picking up. They saw that I had work and everything like that. She was working 2 jobs at the time. They weren't financially stable.
She?
My mother. And so I offered for them to work with me, and then rather than paying them hourly, having them ride the clock, anything like that, the agreement was I was going to pay her a commission rate based on the jobs that she sold, and then my father was supposed to have supervised the job, and at the end of the job's completion, he was going to get a percent for doing that.
And what about your sister?
My sister's only involved in this because I paid for cell phones and tablets for them to use to work with, and she was in possession of the cell phone at the end of this whole situation after I filed the police report.
So that's the only reason your sister is here?
Yes, ma'am.
Because of a cell phone that you purchased?
Correct.
What kind of a cell phone did you purchase?
An iPhone 8 Plus.
And what did you do with the phone?
I gave it to my mother as well as a tablet to use for work purposes.
What did you do with the phone?
When he requested that we give him back at the end, he told me to give it to Marina. I gave it to Marina, and then she actually gave it to the person whose name the phones were under, which was not Gage.
I actually have the ownership of the phones right here.
I see.
As well as the payoff receipt.
Who did you give it to?
My roommate, Tim.
You gave it to your roommate, Tim? Tim
Yeah,
what?
well, it's my brother-in-law.
Okay.
There's also a receipt on the bottom for the payoff. I had to pay them off.
Whose name is the phone under?
No.
I didn't ask you. I asked her.
I was told by Tim that it was under his name.
So you gave it?
It's on his credit that it's under his name.
That's what you were told.
Yes.
Let's deal with her first. That's an easy. The business went south. You know that your mother did not give you a gift of the phone.
Well, he told me he was giving it to me because I was pregnant.
He?
Gage told me he was giving it to me because I was pregnant. I was about to go into labor, so he activated the phone for me.
He did?
Yes.
And so if he gave it to you, so your sister says that you, not your mother, gave you the phone.
No, my mother was in possession of the phone, and I shut the phone off because of all the bad business that went south. She then gave that to my sister because I was still in talking terms with my sister. My sister was not on speaking terms with my mother. They were fighting and arguing with each other. She got possession of the phone and then asked me if I could turn it on for her to use. In the meantime, I turned it on for her to use, and then she sided with them. Everything went south with them, and I told them they need to return the devices because they're company property.
Okay. How much did you pay for the phone?
They're about $1,000 a piece, $858, and I believe
No, the phone, her phone. I'm dealing with her.
$858 now.
$850.
Yes,
You
ma'am.
never got the phone back. Is that
Correct.
right?
Yes, ma'am.
Wasn't a gift. Now you can sit. Okay. Now we have you and your mother. You're suing your mother for taking other things.
Yes, ma'am.
Tablet. What kind of tablet?
iPad.
Did you have possession of the iPad?
When he first started the phones, I did have possession of the iPad. And then when he...
Just a second. You had possession of the iPad. Where is the iPad now?
He gave it to his little brother when he came up the last time he was in Spokane.
Who did?
Gage gave it to his little brother, Tristan.
I did not.
Took it from you?
Yes.
And gave it to him?
Gave it to his little brother, Tristan, because it was no longer under a phone plan, and I couldn't use it out and about in the field. I had the iPhone 8 at the time, and I did everything from that.
Okay.
So I didn't need the iPad, so he gave it to me.
The iPhone 8, who purchased that?
At the time, I thought...
Who purchased it?
Gage did, but...
Not a Gage did, but... Did you ever purchase it?
No.
Where is it?
I have text message proof that the phone wasn't under Gage's name on the plan. At the time, it was under his brother-in-law, Abby's little brother Tim's name. So I gave it to Marina, and then Marina gave it to Tim. That's why we gave it to Tim.
How many phones were there, one or two?
Just the one iPhone 8.
Just one iPhone? One iPhone, one iPad?
And an iPad, yes, ma'am.
Okay. You never had a phone, except for the brief period of time before you gave it to your daughter, who gave it to Tim.
Correct.
Okay. $850. Now, your mother says that you gave the iPad to your brother.
That's not true. I never gave it to him one time. I would not have done that, and that's a lie that she can't use it in the field because I have canvassers in Dallas that use them no problem. They are brand new iPads, and we use the software system that I download on them to use them. That is a lie,
What's
and I
next?
never gave it to him.
What's next?
I also had a bunch of tools. So the job that we started, one job that we started, and I paid her ahead of time for commission. I have the receipts and stuff for that as well. And I went out there to start the job after I attained the business license and everything that I needed.
What kind of job?
It was a roofing job. I went out there for the start of the job. Everything was going fine for the start of the job. I then came home to Texas because I have other jobs and everything in Dallas that I need to do. I have the flight itinerary for that as well. And I started getting...
So you started a job that you...
Yes, ma'am.
You started a job in Washington, a roofing job.
Yes, ma'am.
That your mother had gotten for you.
Yes, ma'am.
And you didn't complete it.
Well, that... Sorry.
You had another job back in Dallas, and you left that job in Washington, having not completed it. In what month was that?
That was in November.
November of 2018?
Yes, ma'am.
How much had you gotten paid for that job?
So far, we had gotten paid out around $10,000 for the material. Material cost about $16,000.
Did you purchase $10,000 worth of material?
I purchased $16,000 worth of material, ma'am.
You have proof of that?
I did not bring that, no, ma'am.
That's what you need. So you got paid $10,000 up front.
Yes, ma'am.
Were you ever cited or fined for work on that job?
No, I was not.
Yes, he was.
I actually have...
I have all of the L&I
I read
right
her
here.
answer.
I actually show my balance for my business license is zero.
I read her answer.
Yes, ma'am.
She said that you received some sort of a citation or fine. I'd like to see it.
So would I.
There's actually 4 citations.
I would like to see those too if I can. Because my balance right here says zero. So if I was fined in the state of
And he
Washington...
did not have a license, a contractor's license at all. He got a business license,
It's literally
and he
right
didn't
here.
get it until after the fact.
It's literally right here.
It's right there at all the L&I.
What was the location of the roofing job that you had?
It was in Spokane, Washington.
Okay, well, we have one non-compliance infraction that says advertising, offering to do work, submitting a bid, or performing work when not registered as a contractor as required.
That's cleared.
Okay? So that's one.
That was cleared, ma'am. Because they issued a stop.
And you were fined $1,000 on this one.
Actually, if you read the notes inside, it's the L&I gentleman puts in there that he did 2 $5,000 fines just for the roof job.
Our balance is zero.
Would you show this to the plaintiff, please?
Thank you. And then here's the business license as well. Yeah, this is cleared.
As of 2/21, it was not clear.
Shh, don't talk to him.
Yeah, that was cleared. Don't worry about that.
Could you show that to him, please?
Thank you. Yeah, it's the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
So all of these, this was because
Don't give me a because.
When I signed the
Do you
contract...
have anything?
Yes, ma'am. I'm sure the balance is zero. I had to handle it because the Department of Labor and Industries initially gave me an infraction for not having a business license, but that's because I didn't provide the business license on the initial
No,
contract.
it's because you didn't do the work. It's because you didn't have a license and you didn't do the work.
They took all the tools back. The work couldn't be done.
And you
She stole my
didn't do the
tools.
work. No,
I
you
hired
left
people,
and you didn't do...
I hired employees and hired them to watch the employees.
Okay.
That was the whole point because I can't stay in Washington with my business in Texas. That was the whole reason I hired them. And then as soon as I left, they took my tools and returned my tools to Harbor Freight.
No, that's not what happened.
I have the receipt.
Not happening for you. There were a lot of people that got hustled here. You were the contractor. You were supposed to do the roof. You were supposed to do the siding. You were supposed to do the paint. You took money. Some of it was insurance money. And you didn't deliver. According to this, uncross your arms. I have no idea what you're counterclaiming for.
What my countersuit is for?
Yeah.
My
He wants his
countersuit
tooth back.
is
He wants
for
money.
missed wages. I've got a stack of people that were not paid. This is the people that were paid. stack's a lot bigger for the unpaid people. I did not receive my commission I received commission on 2 of the jobs. I did not receive commission on the 3rd job. My husband was not paid. Taylor was not paid. 2 of his other siblings that worked on the job site were not paid.
I don't have 2 other siblings that are over 18.
We're done. I think you deserve a little bit of each other. We're done. Case is dismissed.
Please excuse me. Step out.
She's a lifelong con artist. She has been my entire life.
He is a blatant liar.
That's just what I get for reaching out a branch to help somebody.
I can't forgive him for what he's done, but I still love him.
I wish I could pick my family, but you can't. You know?
Always love my kids.
The next case.
All parties in the matter of DeMarco versus Cortini. Step forward.
24-year-old Sean DeMarco is suing his former dog sitter, 21-year-old Kaylee Cortini, for the cost to retrieve a car, a false restraining order, and harassment.
Miss Cortini, you worked for Mr. DeMarco as a dog sitter for a period of time. For how long?
About 4 months.
During that time, you charged him a certain amount of money to walk his dog?
Correct. I had her 24 hours a day.
How much did you charge him to walk his dog?
I let him know as long as he paid for her vet bills, food costs, and all that stuff, that was our agreement. He'd never paid.
Why?
I asked him several times. He had said that he was broke and trying to get into a house because he was currently living in a hotel. I had her 24 hours a day.
Where were you living?
In Woodland Hills.
With whom?
My grandmother.
Is what you're telling me you kept the dog at your grandmother's house?
Yes.
He didn't keep the dog at his house.
No, Your Honor.
Is that right?
That is true.
How did you meet Miss Cortini?
Your Honor, Miss Cortini volunteered to...
I asked you a question. How did you meet Miss Cortini?
I had posted an ad on Craigslist stating that I would pay for my...
Okay. How did you meet him?
He had posted an ad on Craigslist. I responded.
That said what?
He was looking for a dog sitter. He had nowhere to live, and he didn't want to take the dog to the shelter.
Did he say what kind of a dog it was?
Yes, Your Honor.
What kind of a dog?
A golden retriever.
How old?
He said 2 years old.
So he said he was homeless, didn't want to take the dog to a shelter. He would pay for food, etc. If somebody would take the dog while he was looking for a home. Is that the idea of
Yes,
the
Your
breaks? Why in the world would you answer that ad?
I wish I didn't.
And you kept the dog with you for 4 months?
Correct, Your Honor.
What were you doing during those 4 months, Mr. DeMarco?
I was looking for housing. I am here today over Miss Cortini's stealing my...
I don't care what you're here for today. I'm getting a whole different feel for this case than when I first read your complaint, sir. So Miss Cortini took care of your dog for 4 months, and you didn't pay her at all? Is not an answer. The answer is no.
She never asked to be paid. She volunteered.
Are you listening to what I'm saying to you? Miss Cortini was a stranger to you, took care of your dog for 4 months, and you didn't pay her.
Correct.
Good. Slightly different story from what I read in your complaint, sir, which suggested that she was your dog sitter, which suggests to one that I have a dog and somebody comes in maybe once a day to sit with my dog or takes it out for a walk twice a day. But in this case, Miss Cortini took the dog of a stranger and took care of it. And you did nothing while you were homeless, but you had a car.
Your Honor, I did try and get the dog back, but Miss Cortini would not give me the dog. I went there with the police on several occasions.
Mr. DeMarco, was that before or after the car?
It was after she stole the vehicle.
Oh, okay. I'm not interested.
She stole the vehicle on...
Listen to me, sir. I'm going to tell this story now because the complaint that you wrote was very, very one-sided.
No.
Now, I'm getting a different impression of the case, so I'm going to explore it.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
When you got the dog from him, the dog was already pregnant?
She had puppies 3 days after I got her.
How did that happen?
I would just like to say that...
I didn't ask you what you would like to say. I asked you how did it happen that you were so irresponsible to have this dog and be pregnant?
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy.
Sean DeMarco says Kaylee Cortini overstepped her bounds as a dog sitter. He is suing for a car taken without permission, a false restraining order, and harassment.
What you said in your complaint, and just pay careful attention. What, you want out?
No.
Great. What you said in your complaint was that Miss Cortini was your dog walker, and she said she wanted to buy your car.
Correct.
And you agreed on a price. She gave you a down payment. According to her, she told you don't cash the check for a couple of days. You went to try to cash the check, and the check bounced. Miss Cortini had taken the car, and by the time you tried to get it back, she had forged the title, sold it to somebody else. Police were involved, and ultimately you got your car back. And you're suing her for $5,000 for keeping your car and the costs incurred in getting your car back, et cetera, et cetera. That's what your case is. What we didn't say was that she really had no connection with you other than she was being a good Samaritan and taking care of your dog for 4 months. Now I'm going to go back to Miss Cortini. There came a time when you made an arrangement with him to purchase his car.
Yes, Your Honor.
And that car was an
Audi A6.
For how much?
$800.
That was the total purchase price?
Yes, it had a bad motor, so it was on its last leg.
What year Audi?
I believe it was 2013.
Nobody buys an Audi for $800.
Correct.
So I want you to understand, I don't buy that.
He did owe me, part of the agreement was he owed me so much money for taking care of his dog. It was kind of a compromise.
So now let's go back. Uncross your hands. When you agreed to take the dog and babysit for it, did you make an arrangement with him to get paid?
Yes.
And how much were you supposed to get paid?
He was supposed to pay for all of her vet bills, all of her food costs and care. I received $40 one time in 4 months.
So he wasn't supposed to pay you. He was supposed to take care of all of her food.
Correct.
And her vet bills.
Correct.
Did you have to take her to the vet?
I did have to take her one time, yes.
Do you have the bill for that?
I do not.
Well, then,
yeah.
And over the course of 4 months, how much did it cost to feed his dog?
I calculated about $187 with the food she was eating.
A week?
She has a severe liver issue and she doesn't process food. She came to me 43 pounds underweight, which is part of the reason I was a little bit hesitant. I had worked so hard to get her weight back and get her healthy again.
Do you have a photograph of her?
I do.
I'd like to take a look at it.
Sorry, sir. 1 second.
Your Honor.
I'm not at you yet.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
She hasn't given me the dog or the puppies because she's not giving me the dogs back because she got mad because I'm suing her over the car. And she didn't tell you that part. She's leaving that out.
I wouldn't give you your dog back.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy.
Sean DeMarco says Kaylee Cortini overstepped her bounds as a dog sitter. He is suing for a car taken without permission, a false restraining order, and harassment.
Do you have a photograph of her?
I do.
I'd like to take a look at it.
Here you go. Sorry, sir. 1 second.
Your Honor.
I'm not at you yet.
1 second, sir. That was her pregnant, Your Honor. That's why she has such a big stomach.
When you took the dog from him, was the dog pregnant?
Yes.
She had puppies?
She had 5 on my couch and cost me $1,000 to get a new couch for my grandmother.
What did you do with the puppies?
I still have them, Your Honor.
When did she have them?
Very beginning of July.
So when you got the dog from him, the dog was already pregnant?
She had puppies 3 days after I got her.
How did that happen?
I would just like to say that...
I didn't ask you what you would like to say. I don't care what you would like to say. I asked you, how did it happen that you were so irresponsible to have this dog, not neutered, and be pregnant?
Well, the dog was pregnant when I was out of town by a friend of mine.
Who was taking care of your dog?
My dog got pregnant by another dog because the dog was not fixed. And that's why...
I asked you first, let's start with that. Why did you have a dog that wasn't fixed?
I guess because I was irresponsible. And
that's perfect answer.
Right.
Because you were irresponsible.
Right.
Now you're irresponsible and you leave your dog with somebody else.
Right. And I didn't want to get rid of the dog. That's why I was trying to find a pet sitter. But I would like to say there's 2 separate cases and there's already been a judgment pending for the dog issue in Long Beach that Ms. Cortini has not told you. And that's why I'm trying to let you know.
Just a second. So there is another case pending with regard to what and the dog?
That we're waiting for the judgment in the mail over the dog. And that's why I haven't paid her yet for the dog because we're waiting for the judgment in the mail.
Haven't paid her what for the dog?
For the care, the time, all of that, because she hasn't given me the dog or the puppies, because she's not giving me the dogs back, because she got mad because I'm suing her over the car, and she's not giving me my dog back. And she didn't tell you that part.
I wouldn't give you your dog back. I'm just telling you, I wouldn't give you your dog back.
I just would like to let you know I have an emergency protective order. I previously had one. He's relentlessly harassing me and my father, and he's not left me alone for the last 3 months.
I wouldn't give him the dog back.
Yeah.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Have you been cheated? Go to judgejudy.com. Like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter.
How old is the dog?
The dog is 2 years old, and she doesn't...
Just a second. The dog is 2 years old. First, the dog was with somebody else who negligently allowed your dog to get pregnant. Then you were homeless.
No, I was never homeless. I was in the process of moving from Northern California to Southern California, and I didn't want to get rid of the dog, so that's why I had her.
What did you have to get rid of the dog for?
Because I was living in a hotel because my landlord wouldn't let me keep the dog while I was moving from Northern California to Southern California, and I didn't want to get rid of the dog, so that's why I had her pet sit for me while I was looking for a house down here in LA County.
Pet sitting requires payment.
I was going to pay her.
Just a second. Pet sitting requires payment.
I told her.
How much did you pay her?
I was going to pay her.
Going to pay her how much?
She told me that she didn't
Going to pay her how much?
We never agreed on the price.
Mr. DeMarco, I'm not doing this case in a bifurcated way. So when you get the decision from the judge in Long Beach County, come back here and talk to me. I want to see what the judge in Long Beach does with regard to the dog. Then you can come back. All right.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And on the next Judge Judy.
Your cats are annoying him.
I'm aware of it.
Well, then you have to stop it.
But is her neighbor even more frustrating?
Your Honor.
Does it sound like you're losing?
I have no idea.
This fly swatter knows that you're not losing.
I don't hate cats. I'm not against cats.
I don't care whether you hate them or not. You're not the only neighbor.
I have several testimonies from other neighbors.
Oh, my God.
Judge Judy.
You are about to enter the courtroom of Judge Judith Scheindlin. This is Judge Judy.
Jeffrey Nolene is suing his neighbor, Ann Bossert, for property damage, prevention costs, and pain and suffering due to her 6 cats infiltrating his property.
Order. All rise. It's case number 277 on the calendar, the matter of Nolene versus Bossert. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Have a seat.
Mr. Nolene, how long have you and the defendant been neighbors?
Since roughly February 2017.
How long have you been living in your house?
Since July 2011.
So you just moved in?
Yes.
Your cats are annoying him.
I'm aware of it.
Well, then you have to stop it. If you're aware that your cats are annoying your neighbor because they come on their property, then you have to do something to stop it.
I've been trying to.
Well,
I've been using different devices.
What? I know that you've been trying to. You say you've been trying to, but it evidently hasn't been working. How many cats do you have?
6.
Your Honor.
What?
She tried early on to get the neighbors to use these scarecrow devices. They basically are a motion...
Listen to me. Does it sound as if you're losing? I haven't even started yet. And I said to her, your cats are annoying your neighbor. You have to stop it.
In 2017, she did try.
And then what happened in 2018?
Nothing. She did nothing.
Do her cats come on your property?
Consistently, every day. And they use my property for a litter box routinely.
Okay. Let's start with this. I've read your answer, and I've read the fact that you built professional litter boxes outside for your cats and inside for your cats. You've hooped them around so that they hopefully will stay in your yard. I read that you did all of those things. It's not enough. If your cats are going on to your neighbor's property and using it occasionally as a place for their droppings, that's untenable. So what you have to do is keep your cats in your house. If you want to have 6 cats, have 6 cats in your house.
In that case, we need to repair, and I offered that. Repair our fence that is communal because it's falling apart, and I would add that fencing.
Does it sound like you're losing?
I have no idea.
Well, if you tried listening...
Your Honor?
This fly swatter knows that you're not losing. You have to keep your cats in your house. A communal fence has nothing to do with in your house.
Your Honor, if I may.
You can't.
All right.
Sit. You have to keep your cats in your house.
I bought 3 different devices for them not to cross over to his part.
You're not listening to me. I don't care if you build the wall. Cats climb walls. That's what cats do. They climb trees, they climb walls, they climb trellises, and it's fine as long as they're not bothering your neighbors. Your cats are bothering your neighbors, so if you want to have cats, keep them inside. Otherwise, something is going to happen to your cats. Well, I'm telling you, somebody, not this man, but somebody is going to become so frustrated that your cats are leaving their droppings, whatever they are, droppings, birds, squirrels, in their garden, on their lawn furniture or something, that your beloved cats are going to disappear. I'm telling you. And that will be your fault. Just yours.
My cats are rescue cats.
I don't care whether they're rescues, Persians, Himalayans, ragdolls. I don't care what they are. They're your cats. He doesn't like them.
Your Honor, may
I like cats. My neighbor may be allergic to cats. Their child may be... Does it... You're being stupid like the fly swatter.
I don't hate cats. I'm not against cats.
I don't care whether you hate them or not. You're not the only neighbor.
I have several testimonies from other neighbors.
Oh, my God. There is absolutely nothing that you can say to me, or you can say to me, that makes a difference. If your property is annoying your neighbor because your property gets onto your neighbor's property, despite what you perceive to be your best efforts to contain your cats, it's not your best efforts. Your best efforts would be keep your doors closed, your windows closed, and make them indoor cats. That's the answer.
I want to know if it's truly my cats, because the neighbor across feeds 2 cats outside, and then others just below me. The other day I saw cats that were not mine at all.
Keep your cats in the house. Then you'll know where your cats are all the time. Your neighbor will worry about their... Listen, you are so annoying that I've yelled at her. I'm just about to throw you out. You have to keep your cats on your property. And if you can't, you have to get rid of them or keep them in the house. Period.
Your Honor, that's your opinion. That is
No. That's not my opinion. That's the law. If you have a disruptive child, 6 disruptive children, and you're in control of them, and they're annoying your neighbors, that's your responsibility. You're responsible for all the damage that they do. You're responsible for any inconvenience they cause. Your cats are your children. So you have to keep your children, because they're your property, controlled, under your control. Cats are no different from dogs. You have to keep dogs under your control. When they're in your neighbor's garden, they're not in your control. That's not my opinion. That's the law.
But there is a difference between...
Don't talk to me from sitting down. Don't talk to me from standing up. There's no difference. I don't care if you're a cat person. I was a cat person for many years, loved my cats until I developed an allergy. If one of my neighbors had cats and her cat was coming and sitting on my lawn furniture, not doing any damage, and every time I went out on my lawn furniture, my throat closed because I developed that kind of an allergy to cats, that's your fault. You have to keep your property under your control. Now it's time for you to talk.
All right, ma'am.
But I'm going to ask you questions, and I'm going to keep it tight. I want you to tell me how much money you have spent in an attempt to keep the defendant's cats off your property. Don't give me an give me a figure and supporting documents, and I'm going to award you that money.
I want to submit these documents. These are journals of each day that I cleaned up. I started these journals in October of 17 after several months of the problem.
I'd like to see them, please.
Sure. Those several months between June 2017 and October 2017, I averaged out at 5 minutes each time I had to go out and clean them a day. And
you also had to clean up after you when you drop all your gutters full of raccoon droppings on
Honor,
my land.
Just a second. Listen to me. I'm dismissing your counterclaim. Okay. I've told you what I think. I think that you have a neighbor that you've been disturbing for well over a year, maybe more than one, with your affinity for your cats. Not everybody loves your cats. Maybe she loves your cats. He doesn't love your cats. And I don't know if your neighbors love your cats. So you have to clean up your act. And I'm going to make it so that there's a penalty for not cleaning up your act. Now, he's maybe a little extreme and nutty about keeping a journal about how he's had to clean up after your mess. It's your mess. He doesn't have to clean up after your mess.
It is not my mess 100%. I'm sure there are other cats. I see them. Why would it be only me? The whole street feed cats outside.
That's not true, Your Honor.
Just a second. Yeah. They're not here. You're here, and you have 6 cats. First of all, I at one point have 6 cats, so I'm prepared to tell you that anybody who has 6 cats is crazy.
Well, if
I've had 6 cats.
You end up with a lot of cats.
Your Honor, I would like to submit a picture of the raccoon scat that was on her property. I took this picture in October. It sat there for 2 weeks. On October 27th, the defendant accosted me. She was hostile, yelling at me from her property while I watered my garden. I tried to calm her down.
Are you not listening?
I just wanted to address her false statement that I threw anything on her property.
I told her I'm dismissing her counterclaim.
Thank you.
So why do you have to waste my time? It's almost lunchtime.
I agree.
I told you I'm dismissing her counterclaim. She's got to take care of her cat. And I'm awarding you $2,500 to make the point. Do you understand? Get rid of your cats or keep them in your house.
I also wanted to...
Goodbye.
Party's over.
Thank you.
I've won this case, which I'm happy with.
I would like to be able to talk to him.
She's very stubborn about her cats.
I'm very glad it's over. It's back.
And now, the next case.
All parties in the matter of Tauzier versus Minnick. Step forward.
22-year-old Megan Tauzier and her mother, Candy Tauzier, are suing Megan's ex-boyfriend, 21-year-old Gage Minnick, for a security deposit, the return of horse riding jeans, and unpaid rent.
Miss Tauzier, you're 20 years old. You met him on some sort of a dating app. He's 19 years old when you met. You knew each other for a few months. I assume you were living at your mother's house, and you were living at your mother's house. Is that correct? Well, that's where 19-year-old boys usually live. And you decided when you were 20 and he was 19 that you would move out of your parents' house and go and live together. And he was 19 and he was going to get a job. And you were 20 and, according to you, said, I decided to go to school full-time and he was going to get a job at 19. They can't find their way out of the front door when they're 19. They don't know how to do the laundry when they're 19. They don't know how to care for themselves when they're 19. So you lived in one apartment first and didn't have the security deposit, so you put down the security deposit, $500, which is part of what you want back, because he was supposed to take care of everything. He was supposed to take care of you while you went to school. Is that what you wrote?
Yes.
Joke. And then, according to what you wrote, the apartment, he didn't like the apartment. He didn't think it was good enough for the two of you. Listen, most 19-year-old boys could live inside a closet that contained nothing but dirty socks. Very rarely do they care about whether they have 1 or 2 bathrooms. They can actually go on a tree.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Did anybody pay the $1,990?
I did, Your Honor.
Did you?
I did.
Did you pay anything?
No, I didn't. I had taken myself off the lease. We both signed a paper that took my name off the lease and made me not liable for anything.
I don't care!
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy.
Megan Tauzier says ex-boyfriend Gage Minnick owes for her share of the security deposit, the return of her jeans, and rent. Gage is countersuing for Megan's share of an early lease termination fee.
Now, what you wrote here was that he wanted a nicer apartment.
No, ma'am, that's
Anyway.
actually incorrect. She wanted the nicer apartment. She didn't like the old one.
Usually it's girls that don't like the apartment. Anyway, you moved into another apartment. You weren't working. He couldn't maintain the other apartment because it was more expensive than
It was
the first.
cheaper.
Yes, ma'am.
It was cheaper than the first apartment.
Cheaper. Couldn't maintain it. And you weren't working.
Yes, I was a full-time student, not working.
You weren't working. And so you were living there and he was paying the expenses.
Yes.
And then you did what most moronic teenagers do when they try this thing, it doesn't work out. You broke the lease and then went and moved in with you. And you are here as a co-plaintiff because you want him to pay rent.
Yes.
See? Were they sleeping in the same room?
Yes.
Was it her room?
Yes.
Had it been her room when she was 19?
Well, we just moved in. We hadn't been living there,
It was a guest room.
so it was a guest room.
Oh,
It was
so
not
if-
my bed, my furniture, none of it was mine.
I don't care. It's irrelevant. If your daughter came home, where would she have slept?
In the guest room.
Okay, that's where she slept with her boyfriend.
Yes.
With your permission?
Yes.
Yeah, perfect. What article of clothing do you claim that he has that belongs to you?
He has a pair of jeans.
Pair of jeans. Do you have her jeans?
No, I don't, Your Honor.
I have a text that says he does have them.
You're not cuddling with her jeans at
No,
night,
ma'am.
are you?
No, Your Honor.
Mr. Minnick? Do you know where they are?
No,
Mr.
ma'am, I
Minnick?
don't.
He doesn't know where they are. Now, let's get to the broken lease first. Broken lease cost, according to you, $1,990.
That's correct, Your Honor.
That's for the second apartment.
Yes.
To break the lease. And in whose name is the lease?
Both of ours.
Did anybody pay the $1,990?
I did, Your Honor.
Did you?
I did.
Did you pay anything?
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Want justice? Go to judgejudy.com. Like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter.
Did anybody pay the $1,990?
I did, Your Honor.
Did you?
I did.
Did you pay anything?
No, I didn't. I had taken myself off the lease. We both signed a paper that took my name off the lease and made me not liable for anything. And I have that copy here.
I don't care! You lived there with him. You went from that apartment to your mom's house. So you lived in that house. You slept with him in that house. Cuddled with your boyfriend in that house. What difference did it make if you took your name off the lease? He paid $2,000 to get you out of the lease because you weren't working and he was working and you couldn't afford the apartment. You're supposed to be an independent woman on your own so you can take care of yourself and not rely on somebody else to take care of you when you're 20. And if you don't, you stay home in your mother's house. He's not going to pay you any money. If you put in a security deposit of $500, I'll force you to pay half of what he paid if he can show me he paid $2,000 to break the lease. Do you understand?
Yes.
Grow up! Your case is dismissed. We're done.
What about my counterclaim? My counterclaim, Your Honor?
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And on the next Judge Judy.
I'm happy with the decision. I don't really have too many complaints.
Well, she's my daughter.
I paid my half, she paid her half at the beginning.
Well, they couldn't afford it.
They had me doing a lot of stuff for them, kind of treated me like a slave.
We always got along, so
There was a TV remote on the table. They'd be like, can you reach that? I'm right here, but can you reach it for me?
if the whole thing happened over, I wouldn't have let him move in.
Definitely going to wait it out. Not going to do it immediately.
Are the photographs that he posted of you? Tell me about it.
He slandered my name to several people that...
Well, you can't tell me that because you have no witnesses. What you said in your complaint was that he posted photographs of you.
I didn't say he posted. He told people all these lies about me, and then they started harassing me. But they would have never even been involved in my business if he hadn't went and told them all these lies. And
All right,
then
well, I don't know
they
about
called
that.
they called
Okay.
CPS on
So
me.
you have no case. Let's get to the guitar. Who has the guitar?
I took the guitar. I had to return the guitar. But there's a lot more to this than
Let me explain
my
something to you.
complaint.
I'm not hearing it. You want to let somebody else hear it? Go back to the small claims court where you came from. I don't think you have a case. I've looked at your complaint. I'm taking everything that you have in your complaint is true. I don't think you have a case.
I don't see how I don't have a case.
I'm telling you, you don't have a case, that I'm not hearing it. So you can go back to small claims court. Would you like to do that? And I'll dismiss
absolutely,
this case.
because
Great. Case is dismissed without prejudice. Go back to small claims court. We're done. Thank you.
That is our excuse. Step out.
And now, the next case.
All parties in the matter of McCrary versus Fuller. Step forward.
Kamiko McCrary is suing her former friend, Joshua Fuller, for damages resulting from an assault. Joshua is countersuing, also for assault and car damage.
Ms. McCreary, it is your claim that the defendant, who was a friend of yours, first he was your boyfriend, then just a friend, during the course of a car ride, he assaulted you and he destroyed your phone. Mr. Fuller denies both. So let me hear when this car ride took place and where was it to?
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Pulls me into the car, starts wailing on me like this. My brother, he's on the phone. He like, bro, they trading blows. He walks around, opens up the door, and she kind of like falls out. That's how she let me go. I pushed myself out, and that's pretty much how everything got resolved.
Was she high?
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy.
Kamiko McCrary is suing her former friend, Joshua Fuller, for damages resulting from an assault. Joshua is countersuing, also for assault and car damage.
Now, let me hear when this car ride took place and where was it to?
Okay, well, we were in Atlanta, Georgia on November 3rd of this year. We were there for business purposes. I'm a jewelry designer.
November 3rd?
Yes.
You were in Georgia?
Yes, ma'am.
And is that the day of the incident?
Yes, ma'am.
Who else was in the car?
His best friend, Courtney, was also with us.
Mr. Fuller was driving?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So now you can tell me what happened.
Well, basically...
Don't tell me basically. I don't want to know basically. I want you to tell me what happened.
Okay. Well, he was driving, and he was mad because I went to sleep that morning, and he said I slept for too long. So he woke me up, whispering in my ear that morning. This was 6 hours prior to the incident. So in the car, he was still talking about the same thing 6 hours later about how I was asleep. And he decided to put me out on the side of the road in Atlanta, Georgia. And I was like, well, I'm not getting out the car because I have a lot of stuff with me. You tried this already before in Greenville. You said you weren't going to do it anymore, and that's why I'm with you now. And the next thing you know, he threw my phone out the window, and we started fighting once he threw the phone out the window, and he pulled several of my dreadlocks out by the root, and he pulled over at a bank in Georgia, and someone called the police to report the incident, and the police arrived on the scene, and I ran up the street to get my phone, and it was ran over by several cars, and I looked on the ground of the car, on the floorboard of the car, and my hair was on the floorboard of the car.
And that's it? Your version?
Okay. Something like that, except for she kind of told me to shut after a long conversation. I never whispered in nobody's ear. I didn't even go to sleep that night. I was busy burning CDs. We get forward to the moment. She told me. I told her. She said, what? Don't talk to me like that. Threw her phone at me and went out the window. She didn't go pick up her phone because she didn't get out my car. Courtney brought her phone back to her. Me and him took a walk around. It was another lady that seen her when I came back to talk to her and to tell her, look, we gonna make this ride back to Greenville. I'm gonna drop you off. She pulls me into the car, starts wailing on me like this. My brother, he's on the phone. He like, bro, they trading blows. He walks around, opens up the door, and she kind of like falls out. That's how she let me go. I pushed myself out. It's like, man, look, bro, I don't even know how the heck we about to get back to the house right now because I'm about to have to call Dan and them. So we walk off, and yeah, a lady that was in the bank parking lot actually seen her, like seen all of that, and they called the police. We didn't think that the police was going to come. She told me that I called the police. I didn't call any police. I was just trying to figure out how to resolve the incident without going to jail. So when we walked up the street, I walked up the street to just breathe for a second. I couldn't believe all the stuff she was doing. Come back, the police pulled up, and that's pretty much how everything got resolved.
Was she high?
Yeah. I mean...
Yeah. Perfect.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. Closed captioning sponsored by Real People. Judge Judy.
Go to judgejudy.com. Like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter.
Anything else?
No, that's about it.
Anything else? Were you hospitalized?
I was not hospitalized.
Just answer my question. Were you hospitalized?
No.
Did you go to see a doctor?
No.
No. Good. Very good. Your case is dismissed. We're done. Thank you. Bye.
Please excuse me. Step out.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And on the next Judge Judy.
She wants you to pay for half of his legal fees.
Now the squeeze is on Dad.
How much do you earn a year?
About 30. I live in my son's house.
An older son?
Yes.
Judge Judy.
I just think he lost it, and
It's crazy.
I was just so distraught that day
It's not something I want to admit to getting beat up, but you know, sometimes you got to take some blows.
that I just wanted to just end the whole thing. I couldn't even believe it happened.
No, they asked me did I want to press charges because when they seen me, I was all nicked up and had stuff on my face.
Well, it was someone that called, so I'm glad they did.
But I told them, nah, she just needs to go home and get out of my life.
I just want justice to be served and for women to be respected around the world.
Home. She's a hero.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Peoples versus Nahas. Step forward.
Frida Peoples is suing her former friend and business partner, Jenny Nahas, for money owed for food sales and supplies and for loss of revenue.
Miss Peoples, who is this?
This is Rochelle. She's a third partner in the Three Sisters catering.
This is briefly what I gather from this case. You and the defendant and your witness decided to go into a cooking catering business to at least give it a shot. You each have a distinctive style of cooking. Yours is
Caribbean.
And yours is?
African.
And yours is?
Soul food.
And you called the company Three Sisters.
Yes.
You decided to try out the company at a fair that was being held, where there were food booths, where you sold food, and in exchange for the food, people had purchased tickets. So you got so many tickets. At the end of the fair day, tickets were turned in to the people who run the operation, and those tickets were translated into cash.
Correct.
Well, for whatever reason, things weren't working out for the three of you.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
How many tickets did you give Miss Nahas?
240.
You both gave her 240?
Yeah, because we were out there all day.
How much did you get?
$367, Your Honor.
Do you have any proof of that?
Absolutely.
I'd like to take a look at it.
Yes, ma'am.
Judge Judy.
Frida Peoples says former friend and business partner Jenny Nahas owes for food sales and supplies from a food fair and for loss of revenue. Jenny is countersuing for the cost of aprons and for stealing the company name.
Now, there was some investment made. The defendant says she bought custom aprons that said Three Sisters on it. You bought, according to you, food. I'm not interested in that. That's not what courts are here to deal with. 3 aprons and some food that you bought for a fair. We're not talking about a whole lot of money. But what your claim is that the defendant, since she was the one who signed up for the space at the fair and gave a deposit, correct?
Yes. Yes, Your Honor.
She had to turn in the tickets, which she did, and she didn't share with you any of the money that she got. That's basically what your case is about. Okay, now, on the 23rd, did you, all three of you, work at the fair?
Yes. We did, but not for the whole fair.
But you were all there.
Yeah. We all showed up eventually. Yes, ma'am.
I know, you say that she showed up late. How much money in tickets did you give Miss Nahas?
For myself, I counted $240.
Could you stand up? Miss Harvey, how many tickets did you give Miss Nahas?
240.
You both gave her 240?
Yeah, because we were out there all day. So, and we sold everything.
And how much did you collect yourself that day?
About $150.
So that's about $630. How much did you get?
$367, Your Honor.
Do you have any proof of that?
Absolutely.
I'd like to take a look at it.
Yes, ma'am. This is a copy of the check that they sent me that was cashed and cleared.
Would you show this to the plaintiffs, please? And Miss Harvey, how much money did Miss Nahas give to you?
$120.
And Miss Peoples, how much did Miss Nahas give to you?
$0. Correct.
Why?
Judge Judy continues in a moment. Closed captioning sponsored by Real Cases, Real People. Judge Judy.
Nothing like taking
the time, so I was funding it and was supposed to get reimbursed.
Why did you give Miss Harvey $120 and not Miss Peoples?
At the time, me and Miss Harvey was continuing with the business and had decided at that time that me and her were staying together. We did not appreciate the way Frida was handling business, so we commenced, and myself and Miss Harvey carried on.
Good. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $120. We're finished. Thank you.
Step out.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And on the next Judge Judy.
She's just bitter that she no longer has a boy toy. If I had to put a picture in the dictionary next to what a boy toy looked like.
Judge Judy.
You know, I had more experience in the business and...
Be very careful. Be very careful. It ruins friendships.
I'm very forceful about it because I know what I'm doing. And she had no experience in this at all.
That's the overall part that, that I'm upset with.
This is not the first time she was dishonest with me about money, and I should have known better.
This is minor. The friendship meant more to me.
I definitely don't do business with friends.
Who accused you of hitting the boat for the first time?
I believe it was Joe.
First, listen.
I don't have to listen.
An accident makes waves at a marina.
The defendant asked not to have a police report filed.
I never said that, no.
Of course not. You should have gotten somebody else to testify.
But who will be sunk?
Would you tell me if you hit their boat?
I would. I have no reason to lie here.
Well, you do. Actually.
Judge Judy.
You are about to enter the courtroom of Judge Judith Scheindlin. This is Judge Judy.
Marina owner Earl McHugh is suing neighbor Miles Miller for damages resulting from a boat accident.
Order. All rise. This is case number 474 on the calendar in the matter of McHugh versus Miller.
Thank you.
Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Folks, have a seat, please.
Mr. McHugh, it is your claim that the defendant damaged your pontoon boat. You have a business at a marina. You purchased a business last summer.
Yeah.
And the business was renting pontoon boats. How many boats did you purchase when you purchased the business?
2, and then we added one later.
So
we
then
borrowed another one.
And the boat that you allege was damaged by Mr. Miller was which boat?
It was a Prince Craft Vectra 23.
On what date do you allege that this boat was hit by Mr. Miller?
May 16th, 2018.
The complaint says May 13th, 2018.
Yeah, that was a guesstimate that I made that.
Well, let's not be guesstimates. I asked you a question. Either it's May 13th or May 16th. He's entitled to know when, so I don't want to guesstimate, because if you guesstimated, listen to me, Mr. McHugh, if you guesstimated when you signed this affidavit, which is the complaint that you read, and something sparked your memory, so now you know it was May 16th, or are you still guesstimating?
No, something provided me the information that would say it was May 16th.
I would like you to tell me what it was that sparked your memory that it was May 16th between this moment and 2 hours ago when you came in the back, looked at the complaint, signed the complaint. I want you to tell me what happened between 2 hours ago and now that you know the date was different.
It didn't happen just now. It happened last week when I got the phone records, and when I got a phone record, it said it was May 16th. The May 13th is a date that I use when I filed the police report.
So you swore in a police report that it happened on May 13th, and then when you got information, when you filed the police report, you didn't know when it happened. So that's interesting. On what date did you file the police report?
Police report was filed in July 5th, so it was about a month and a half later. But
All right, Mr. McHugh, so far, it's not going good for you.
Okay, I understand.
Do you understand?
Yeah.
Because if it happened in May, either the 13th or the 16th, you go to the police in July, so you wait 2 months to go to the police to file a police report. Something had to happen between May and July that inspired you to go to the police. Because it wasn't this incident that happened either on the 13th or the 16th.
When it first happened, I thought that we could do this without, I think the defendant asked not to have a police report filed.
You're doing a lot of thinking. There's a lot of.
The defendant requested that we did not file a police report, and I thought that we could handle it outside of any.
Did you ever ask him not to file a police report?
I didn't know there was a police report happening until they called me in June or July, whenever it was.
My question to you, Mr. Miller,
I never said that, no.
Of course not. Go. Continue.
Okay, well,
What happened between May and July that inspired you to go to the police in July?
Well, it was actually probably in May, and the police couldn't get there because some guy was on vacation, and then they had some other delays. But it was still a month delay before we asked to file a police report.
You should have gotten somebody else to testify. Maybe your partner. Since you didn't see this incident and you're making it up as it's going along, don't you watch this program?
Anyway.
Don't you watch this program? Why in the world would you think that you could come and me?
I'm not.
Yes, you are. We're making it up as it's going along. I mean, really, it's not funny. He's serious, I'm serious. Bird for sure is serious. So something happened between May and July. You don't have to have a police officer come to you. You can go into the police if you wanted to make a police report on May either 14th or 17th, depending upon what day you say this happened. You go into the police and you say, I want to file a police report. They don't have to come out to you.
The Macomb County Sheriff requested they investigate that, and that's how their procedure is. It only works certain days.
You're so full of baloney.
No, that's what they told me.
All you have to do is go in to the police department. Initially, you said, the defendant said to you, please, don't get the police involved. We'll handle this. He never said he said that to you. But if he said that to you, then there would have been no reason for you, if that's what you said a moment ago, and that's what I thought we were going to do, there would have been no reason for you to go to the police initially. Then you say to me, well, I went to the police, but that's their process. They wanted to, Macomb County, they wanted to do their own investigation, and somebody was on vacation, and then do you understand what my problem is with you?
Yes.
So let's start again without peeing on my leg and telling me that it's raining. Something happened between May and July with the defendant and you, and maybe your business, maybe you had issues. You want to tell me what that was?
I was frustrated that nothing had happened, and I felt like it wasn't going to be resolved. So that's why I called the police department and scheduled that.
Now, who is going to tell me that they witnessed this accident? Raise your hand.
That would be me, Judge Judy. Come over. Okay.
Tell me your name.
My name is Tamara Kennedy.
Miss Kennedy, on what date did this incident happen?
It actually happened on the 16th, approximately 1 o'clock in the afternoon.
And what were you doing at the marina?
I worked there, Your Honor. I help with renting out the boats that we rent out, the Tri-Tunes. So I give captain's courses and give them instruction on what to do. Well, that day, I happened to be about 10 or 12 wells further than where that boat was docked, taking some money from one of our renters that paid for a well, and I heard an odd noise. So I looked, what was that? So I peeked, and at that time, I looked, and I saw a boat, like here was our boat, and there was a boat perpendicular.
What's our boat?
Our boat, the rental craft, the Prince craft that's sitting at the wall.
Well, you say that's your boat.
Well, the boats that they own, I rent them out. They both have other jobs. That's what I do.
How long have you been working at the marina?
I started in May.
Do you work for them?
Yes, I do.
Oh, so you're an employee of theirs. You don't work at the marina. You're an employee
of
they
own the marina.
So you're an employee of theirs.
Correct.
Can I speak?
And this was...
Sorry.
What is the next thing that you did?
So I left the area where I was at, taking the payment from that van, and I started walking towards where the craft was on the seawall.
This happened at 1 o'clock in the afternoon.
Allegedly, between.
Not allegedly. I didn't say allegedly.
1 and 1:15.
Great.
I
I'd like you to show me on your phone records where you called Mr. McHugh between 1 and 1:30 in the afternoon on May 16th, 2018.
Well,
your...
Okay, I actually called the other boss. That would be Joe.
You called Joe?
Joe, yes.
She didn't say she called
Joe,
Earl McHugh. Okay, sorry.
But no, I actually called the other partner.
Great.
Because he's closer by.
Great. Get me your phone record.
Did you bring the marina phone?
No.
I don't have the marina phone. We have a business line that they give me a phone that I use during the season. And then
so that there is no evidence that you called him on the 16th?
Not, if I don't have that phone.
I guess not.
I would say no.
And the other boss has a phone. So if you called him on a phone.
Correct.
Do you have a record of that call?
I don't have a record. She called me on my personal phone. She didn't call me on my boat phone.
I'm talking about your personal phone.
Okay.
You said she called you on your personal phone.
Right.
I would have a record of a phone call that was made to me on May 16th at between 1 and 2 in the afternoon by my employee.
Right.
I would have that.
Right.
Where is it?
I don't have it with me.
Well,
Because
where
I
did you
erased
think-
my calls. I erased my... First, listen.
I don't have to listen.
No.
I didn't ask you anything. I asked you a question. Do you have it with you? You said
Okay.
no. And then you said, I erased my calls. Got it.
Got it.
So then you called this boss.
Yes, ma'am.
And you told him what you observed.
Yes, ma'am.
That there was an accident caused by Mr. Miller.
Correct.
Did your partner call you?
Yes, he did.
Did your partner call you?
Yes.
Did he call you at your other job?
Yes.
And he told you what had been told to him by your employee.
Yes.
And that's how you found out about the accident.
Correct.
And that was on the 16th.
I don't know. He might have told me the next day
In person or on the phone?
on the phone.
Did you go and look at the boat?
The following day, yeah.
And you saw the damage?
Yes.
How did you contact the defendant?
He was across the river, and at the time he said...
No. He was across the river.
Okay.
Slowly. He was across the river.
He was across the
And that
river.
would have been on May 17th, maybe May 18th. So he was across. You went to see the damage on the boat, and step by step.
Okay. We had a brief conversation. And he
Across
said
the
that-
river.
Across the river.
And?
And he said, well, why don't you just file a comprehensive claim, and with your insurance company, they'll waive your deductible. And I said, no, that's true for cars, but not for boats. And I said, I don't even know what my deductible is. I haven't looked at my policy, but I think it's, $350 or $1,000. Then he went, I can't afford that, and he walked away.
Okay, let me read what you swore to. On May 13th, 2018, Miles called and apologized for hitting my boat. He said his throttle got stuck and rammed into my new 35. That's what you swore to.
Yeah.
That's what you swore to.
It's after that I figured out that it was
No.
a 60.
No.
Okay.
You understand?
No,
What
he
you swore-
didn't. I never said he called me.
Yes,
he called
you did.
Joe.
No. That's what you swore to.
Should have read this closer, obviously. It says Miles called, which no, that's true. Miles called and apologized for hitting the boat. He called Joe.
What happened? He called it. Didn't call it 13th. It's the date she's concerned.
Right.
Mr.
On May
Miller-
13th, but I did swear to May 13th because that was on the police report.
Can I have that back, please?
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Was that conversation that you had with him about going through his insurance and paying the deductible, was that conversation in May, June, or July?
Probably later in May.
See, you always trip yourself up, Mr. Miller.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy.
Marina owner Earl McHugh says neighbor Miles Miller ran into his boat while it was docked.
Now, did you call his partner and apologize for hitting the boat?
No. He asked me to call him, asked for my phone number, or told me to call him because they were accusing me of hitting the boat.
Who accused you of hitting the boat for the first time?
I believe it was Joe. Sure.
Tell me about that conversation.
We yelled across the canal. I don't
He
remember.
did.
Yeah.
He did.
Yeah. And asked for me to call him. He wanted to discuss the boat, accusing me of hitting it.
Did you give him your number?
I did.
And did he call?
Or no, I called him from the number on the side of the boat. That's how I called him.
Did you call him after you had had a conversation with him or before?
After.
Tell me, Mr. Miller, about the conversation that you had with him and on what date, if you remember,
I don't
that
remember the
conversation
dates.
took place.
I don't remember the dates, but he was asking about the damage to the boat, and we'd had a conversation before about the location of the boat, and I warned him it was in a vulnerable position.
Okay, when you're saying it was in a vulnerable position, it's because it was parked alongside the marina,
Yes.
not in a slip.
Correct.
Miss Kennedy, I want you to walk over to that and show me where the pontoon boat was parked when you say it was hit.
Okay, the tri-tune was right here along the seawall.
Just a second.
Okay.
Do you have, you're the employee, do you have a permit to be parked along the seawall?
I don't know if there's a permit. I don't own the marina, but they do. So I think we're allowed to dock our boats wherever. Do we have a permit for that?
There's not a permit required by the township.
Well, you have a marina with slips, and there's a way to go through, so that has to be kept clear. And can you tell me why your boat was parked along the seawall rather than in one of the slips?
It's basically just a more convenient place for renters to leave from.
Well, it's a more convenient place for them to leave from, but not necessarily for the boat to be kept, because that requires a very sharp turn from the other side, from Mr. Miller's side. Instead of being able to swing out, he has to be careful of your boat.
Yeah,
it's very close.
It is very close, but there's also, if you look at the boats that are sticking out on the slip, there's probably maybe about 2 foot of difference between where these boats are and that edge. So it might be about 2 feet out.
Yeah. Is there more than 2 feet worth of damage on your boat?
No.
No. So I'm just saying, I don't know whether that's true or not. Now, Mr. Miller, I'm going to come to you, because he doesn't know whether he's a foot or horseback. But now I'm going to ask you a question.
Okay.
On either May 13th or May 16th, either because of the positioning of the plaintiff's boat or for any other reason, did your boat come into contact with his?
It did not.
What did you say to Mr. McHugh when you ultimately had a discussion with him?
I asked him multiple times to stop docking the boat there because we had very little room, but I mean, it's just a warning. I felt like I was warning him, you know, anybody could hit the boat. But
that's not what I asked you.
The accusation
that's not what I asked you. It's true that anybody could hit the boat, and I don't believe her.
I don't believe she even worked there at that time.
Just a second.
I think she started later in the summer. I don't think she witnessed anything.
Well, thank you for confirming that. I don't actually need your confirmation, but I don't think she saw anything. Because if she saw anything, what she would have done is she would have brought me evidence that she made a phone call to either one of them.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
We're still friendly. We're not angry with each other.
Are you telling me that you're not angry with her for lying today?
I am surprised that she's here, but...
You've seen her since?
Over the summer, she was over.
After this incident?
Yes.
Really?
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy.
Marina owner Earl McHugh is claiming neighbor Miles Miller ran into his docked boat.
Now, Mr. Miller, would you tell me if you hit their boat?
I would. I have no reason to lie here.
Well, you do, actually. If Mr. McHugh said that you discussed with him going through his insurance and paying a deductible, do you recall that?
That was just a recommendation.
Do you recall that conversation?
But we did speak.
Just a second. You recall the conversation. When did that conversation take place?
I don't remember the dates during all this.
Just a second, Mr. Miller. Let's go back. Was that conversation that you had with him about going through his insurance and paying the deductible, was that conversation in May, June, or July?
Honestly, I couldn't tell
I
you.
want you to think.
Probably later in May.
And was that conversation across the river or in person?
Across the river.
Tell me approximately what time of the day you had this conversation with him about using his insurance.
Sometime afternoon.
And so this was maybe a week or so after the incident.
I'd say so.
See, you always trip yourself up, Mr. Miller.
Why is that? I recommended he goes through his insurance.
No, Mr. Miller.
Instead of accusing me.
Mr. Miller, no. There's a certain common sense to things, sir. And, well, I don't like this, and I don't like the fact that I don't believe her. I wouldn't have a conversation with somebody with whom I was having disagreements about where they park their boat, about how best to minimize their damage and go through the insurance. And, you know, if you go through the insurance, if you have $100 or a $500 deductible, you'll let me know. And I wouldn't have any discussion with it. It's not my problem. I didn't hit your boat. Why would I have a discussion with somebody about damage to their car? Somebody said, well, I hear you hit my car. I said, well, you have collision insurance, you know. Why don't you go shoot your... Yeah, it would be fine if you were friends.
I mean, we
Just
see
a
each
second.
other.
It would be fine if you were friends.
Neighbors, say.
But you were not neighbors, Mr. Miller. You were not friendly neighbors, because it was clear from both what you said to me today and what you wrote here that you were irritated by the fact that Mr. McHugh was parking where he shouldn't have parked his pontoon boat. That's what you told me today, and that's what you wrote in here, right? So it was not a friendly conversation that you might have with somebody if you were friends. You were
I mean,
not
we're friendly
friends, you were
enough that
annoyed.
she's been over at our side of the river for dinner. We're still friendly.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Want justice? Go to judgejudy.com. Like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter.
Now,
We're still friendly. We're not, I mean, we have our arguments about this, but we're not angry with each other. We're not going to fight.
well, you mean, are you telling me that you're not angry with her for lying today?
I am surprised that she's here, but yeah. I don't believe she even worked at renting out the boats until later in the summer. That's when I first started seeing her.
And tell me, when you say she comes over your side of the river, she comes over your side of the river to have dinner with you?
Yeah, the whole family. When we dock the boats, we'd have barbecues and stuff, have some cocktails.
You've seen her since?
Yeah, over the summer she was over.
After this incident?
Yes.
Really? What state do you come from?
We're just north of Detroit in Michigan.
Very good. I'm not comfortable with ferreting out the rest of this case, actually.
Why is that?
Why? I'm not comfortable with the testimony on either side, so you can both go back to Michigan. I'm dismissing your case without prejudice. Go back and try it before a judge there. Thank you.
Why is that? Can we step out?
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And on the next Judge Judy.
Had to end this way.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Campbell versus Copeland. Step forward.
Jared Campbell is suing his former friend, Colin Copeland, for an unpaid loan while they were on vacation in Australia.
Mr. Campbell, you and the defendant were friends. Some time ago, you went on a trip together. When was that trip?
The end of 2017, December.
You went on a trip together. You were all supposed to pay for yourself. You ran out of money, Mr. Copeland?
Yes, ma'am.
How much through the trip did you run out of money?
Probably about 3 weeks in.
How long was the trip?
I only stayed for 5 weeks.
So you ran out of money. You needed money for 2 weeks.
Yes.
And you got the money from Mr. Campbell?
Yes, ma'am.
How much?
About $800. Then, yeah, that paid for the trip.
Did you pay him back?
No, ma'am, I did not. I don't know money.
Slowly, I'm old. Slowly.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
So what you're saying is that he made you the gift of $800.
Yes, ma'am.
Why would you write to him, I'll be sending monies shortly?
I'm sorry, Your Honor.
No matter how...
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy.
Jared Campbell is suing his former friend, Colin Copeland, for an unpaid loan while they were on vacation in Australia.
Did you pay him back?
No, ma'am.
Why?
Because I don't owe him the money.
Well, he paid for you for 2 weeks. So now you explain to me why you don't owe him the money.
Because I was told we were going to be doing really cheap things. I wasn't informed about doing any of the sanctuaries or zoos, the whitewater rafting. I was told I was going to be either camping, buying our own food, just really, really cheap. So when he actually brought these ideas, I informed him that I was running out of money and I was ready to go home. I was going to be leaving. He said, no, I'll just stay, enjoy the trip. We'll do these and we'll have a good time.
So
do all
what
these.
you're saying is that he made you the gift of $800.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Campbell, do you have any proof to show me that the $800 that you advanced, because you both came up with about the same figure, $800,
Yeah.
was acknowledged by Mr. Copeland as being a loan until you got back?
Many different times I was told by him, and we had conversations.
Do you have anything in writing?
Yes, I have bank statements, and I also...
Bank, you don't need any bank statements unless he paid you back any money, did he?
No, he did not pay me back any money. I have text messages, also messages on Facebook.
Well, I'd like to see those. I'd like to see the text message. And those are acknowledging that he owes you the money.
Yeah.
I'd like to see them. Why, Mr. Copeland, would you write to him? I also have another interview for my old construction job on Tuesday, so I'm hoping for that too. So I'll be sending monies shortly.
I'm sorry, Your Honor. Just probably for like safekeeping, trying to just be a good friend, let him know that I'm trying to find a job, and once I actually got my job, I'd put forth the effort to make an attempt. But
Make an attempt to what?
To pay back. But when we were on the trip, he said I didn't have to.
Okay. What's IMA? What does that mean?
Does I'm a pay you back or something like that?
No. IMA.
I'm sorry.
Maybe it's an AMA. AMA. Oh, my God. It's time to just pull the dirt over my head. Ama. I-M-A.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. Closed captioning sponsored by
Mesothelioma.
Judge Judy. Well, just want justice? Go to judgejudy.com. Like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter.
I'm a have to get your number again for transferring later. If anything, when I'm back home, let the bank know I'm going to come and get it. Or I can just go to the bank and make deposits into your account by asking them.
Like I was saying, ma'am, but all on the trip, it was not informing me that I had to do any type of payment.
All right. Well, then you changed it to a loan afterwards. What difference it makes? So why don't you pay him back?
I've just been out of work. I had to have surgery for an ACL on my knee, and it's just, I can't really find a...
Who do you live with?
I now live with my parents. I had to move back home.
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $800. We're finished. Thank you very much.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And on the next Judge Judy.
You were looking for a bargain. You got a handyman instead of a roofer.
It goes beyond just doing a bad job. My daughter got hurt because of the nails everywhere.
Stick to being a handyman.
Judge Judy.
It was great. I got paid back the money that I deserved.
Apparently, things I don't remember were said, so...
He borrowed the money when we were on vacation. He told me he was going to pay us back.
I was in an agreement that I wasn't paying anything back, but apparently...
Well, the fact that, I sued him because he didn't follow his obligation.
If there's proof that I now am.
That you need to pay back the money that you owe.
Well, if it wants to be friends, I'll stay friends, and, I do understand everything that's going on, but it's difficult times.
I don't think I'll ever talk to him again.
Next case.
All parties in the matter of Frazier versus Miller. Step forward.
Suzanne Frazier is suing her grandson, Timothy Miller, for payments on a car she sold him.
Miss Frazier, this is your grandson.
Yes, it is.
How many grandchildren do you have?
4.
How old are they?
28, 26, 13, and 10.
And you are?
26.
Are you a working lady, Mrs. Frazier?
I'm retired from the Fairfax County government for 30 years.
And who do you live with?
My husband.
Is he also retired?
Yes, he is.
What is your claim that your grandson owes you for a car that he purchased from you?
Correct.
And it was a car that you inherited?
Yes, ma'am.
Inherited from whom?
My late husband.
How long have you had the car?
Well, my late husband purchased it for me in March of 2012. Brand new.
So it was your car? You didn't inherit it from...
Well...
Were you divorced at the time?
No, ma'am.
Okay. He passed away. It was your car?
Yeah.
I was wondering about that because your grandson says that you inherited the car. She didn't inherit the car. It was her car.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
She paid her and paid her and paid her $300 a month because she had a contract with your grandmother until he woke up one day and it said, oh, I don't have to pay her anymore because the bill of sale only says $100.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy.
Suzanne Frazier is suing her grandson, Timothy Miller, for payments on a car she sold him.
Now, Mr. Miller, you got this car from your grandmother in what month and year?
July of 2017.
Don't look at her. When was the last time you saw your grandmother other than today?
A little over a year ago.
Is there a reason for that?
Not really. I live in New York. She lives in Virginia.
How did you pick up the car?
I used to live in Virginia.
When did you move to New York?
July 1st of 2017.
And you took the car with you?
Yes, ma'am.
You were making payments on the car to your grandmother. Until when?
I stopped sending her money.
In what month?
October.
October of what year?
2018.
How much had you been sending her a month?
Giving her $300 a month.
And you were giving her $300 a month from July of 2017, according to you, until 2018?
Correct.
October. Why did you stop?
Because I believe that I did not have to pay the money because of my side in the title. It was for $100 that I was being sold the car for. And that's what I paid when I gave the title to New York State.
Are you an idiot?
No.
Yeah, you are. First of all, A, because I don't think that you believe that, and B, because even to say it to me presupposes that you think that I'm an idiot. And I don't like that.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Are you in a family dispute? Go to judgejudy.com. Like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter.
Okay. I mean, is you paid her $300 a month because you had a contract with your grandmother. And the contract was you were going to pay her for the car $10,000 and you were going to pay her $300 a month, which you did until you woke up one day and it said, oh, I don't have to pay her anymore because the bill of sale only says $100. Do you have a girlfriend?
Yes.
Was this your idea or your girlfriend's idea?
She had no idea about this.
No, it was your idea. So
Yes.
It was the lightning rod that struck you one day. How much is still owed from the $10,000?
He owes me $6,600.
You gave him the title to the car?
Yes, I did.
And he paid on the car for a substantial period of time?
24 payments of $150, so 12 payments of $300.
My court maximum is $5,000. You should say sorry to your grandmother. We're done here. $5,000 judgment for the plaintiff.
Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And on the next Judge Judy.
I bought the car for $100 per the title.
I'm happy with the decision. I'm sorry it had to come to this.
Because I said no.
Because he's my grandson. I didn't think he'd do this to me.
We haven't talked in a very long time.
Because he did break my heart.
Probably not yet, but eventually we'll probably talk.
It's just going to be a matter of some time. And then I hope we can reconcile.
Just ready for it all to be over.
I'm really hoping that time does heal all wounds.
And now, the next case.
All parties in the matter of Velardo versus Simcox. Step forward.
Jennifer Velardo is suing her ex-boyfriend, James Simcox, for a loan, storage fees, and planter material.
Mr. Simcox, I'm going to start with you. You and Miss Velardo dated for a while.
Yes, ma'am.
And at some point, Miss Velardo handed you $800.
Yes, ma'am.
In what month was that?
I guess it'd be January, February. I don't recall the exact month.
Ma'am, it was March 1st. I have
March, okay.
the text message and the withdrawal from my bank account.
So, Mr. Simcox, even though she shouted out, which she's not supposed to do, and which she will surely not do again, she has evidence that she withdrew $800 from her bank account on the 1st of March. What she also probably has are text messages as to why she took the $800 out and gave it to you. So why don't you, knowing that she has more paper on her side than you do, I want you to tell me how it came about that Miss Velardo transferred $800 to you on the 1st of March.
Well, ma'am, this...
Don't tell me, ma'am. Just I want you to take a breath, Mr. Simcox.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Jennifer needed a desktop. In March, she got her taxes and paid me the $800. Does that sound like a story that you just told me?
Oh, no, ma'am. I don't recall saying she ever paid me for anything.
That's what you swore to. You want to see your signature?
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy.
Jennifer Velardo says ex-boyfriend James Simcox owes for a loan after his phone was shut off, storage fees, and planter material.
Now, Miss Velardo transferred $800 to me on March 1st because...
She was helping me with an issue I had with my cell phone company. Unsolicited, she volunteered.
Just a second. What kind of an issue did you have with your cell phone company?
My cell phone company at the time was overbilling me. I received a bill for $800, knowing that wasn't the norm. So, of course, I was venting to anybody who would listen.
And you vented
yes,
to her?
Yes, ma'am, I did.
And you vented to her, and she took out the $800 that you needed for your phone bill.
Yes, ma'am.
And now you're no longer dating.
Yes, ma'am.
And she wants the $800 back.
And plus some.
And the other stuff is sort of nonsense. I'm not even paying attention to it. $38 for dirt. I didn't go to law school for $38 for dirt. And she started to ask for the money back.
Yes, ma'am. Rather vigorously.
What did you say to her?
Well, ma'am, to be honest, I didn't answer a lot because it was getting to the point. May I back up a little? This all started probably 2 or 3 weeks prior to this.
This started out, sometime in February.
Yes, ma'am.
So tell me what happened in February.
Well, she was having issues with doing some type of work on her computer. Her computer wasn't functioning properly. Well, I said, well, I can probably help you out with that. I have a desktop at home you can use. Bring me your laptop that's frozen up and won't work, and I will gladly do what I can to fix that problem.
And at that time, you were still dating?
Yes, ma'am.
Intimate?
Yes, ma'am.
So her boyfriend, her intimate boyfriend, said, I can help unfreeze your frozen computer. Also, I have one that I'm not using that's an old desktop.
Yeah, well, I was using it, but I could part with it for her use.
Right. And?
A couple of weeks later, this incident came up with the cell phone. I vented.
Oh, I got the venting. So you sort of figured he would help her out with unfreezing her computer.
Yes, ma'am.
And gave her a desktop that you weren't using.
To use, yes, ma'am.
So you sort of felt it was a quid pro quo for the unfreezing of her computer.
Maybe somewhat
I love
accurate.
that line. Yeah, okay. So let me tell you, Mr. Simcox, because when people fabricate, and it's so interesting that they fabricate, but they don't have good memories. See, when you fabricate, which is a nice word for lying, you're supposed to be able to be consistent, because I'm going to read to you what you swore to in your answer.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. Have you been cheated? Go to judgejudy.com. Like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter.
Jennifer needed a desktop, and I had a desktop at my house. I offered to sell it to her for $800. She asked if she could have the computer right away, and she would pay me back as soon as she got her tax refund. That's what you wrote here. I also helped fix her laptop. In March, she got her taxes and paid me the $800. Does that sound like a story that you just told me? That's what you swore to. You want to see your signature?
Oh, no, ma'am. I don't recall saying that she ever paid me for anything.
I want to show him that what I just read from. Is that your signature, sir?
That's my signature, yes, ma'am.
Perfect. That's all. Take it back. Thank you. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $800. We're finished. Thank you very much.
He agreed.
No dirt.
He agreed to pay me back $900.
That's usurious. $800. Judgment for the plaintiff.
Ma'am.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And on the next Judge Judy.
You know, I feel like I dodged a bullet with him. He's a dog.
Well, when it got to the point where I was being stalked, threatened, blackmailed, I think this is a good resolution.
He completely and totally lied.
Oh, gosh, I was getting numerous text messages.
He's a former police officer, so he tried to intimidate me.
And I finally said, if you don't stop contacting me, I'm going to charge you with cyber stalking.
Because I would ask him for the money back.
Well, it's an interpretation, but the whole story didn't come out.
And I want to warn every single woman in Clayton, North Carolina, to avoid him like the plague.
Now, the next case.
All parties in the matter of Redinger versus Payne. Step forward.
Rebecca Redinger is suing painter William Payne for damage to the interior of her home.
Miss Redinger, what you want is your money back for painting work that the defendant did for you in your home. When did he do the work?
In November of 2017.
And you had a contract?
Yes, we had a contract.
I'd like to see it.
You want me to give you the contract or him?
Yes, it's your case. You have to give me the contract.
Wasn't sure.
I've got one, ma'am.
Don't help me. I don't need help.
Okay.
Total estimated budget was $3,800, and it described the scope of the work. This is unsigned. Does anyone have a signed copy?
I don't think we ever signed a copy, an actual copy.
Yes, ma'am, we did sign the copy, and I left it with her as I normally do with all my customers.
I have the final bill, though, that shows the increased add-ons.
You both agree that this is the contract?
If I could see it, I would.
It's a contract she provided.
Yes, ma'am.
That's the contract. And what you've handed me now is an ultimate invoice, because the work that was originally contemplated in this contract was extended by you.
Correct.
To do other things.
Yes.
So the original quote was $3,800. And on January of 2018, this was the final invoice?
Correct.
Ma'am, that was a different date.
What was the date?
The final invoice was actually in November of 19 of 2017.
That's the final invoice that says final bill that he sent to me on
January.
that date.
That's one that I
from you.
changed the date for her to be able to use on her taxes of that year. She came to me wanting me to change the date from where we originally did it to a different date so she could use it on her taxes instead of the year before.
He didn't make that up.
That's the final
No, just a
tax
second.
bill.
Just a second. He didn't make that up. Do you understand something? He just acknowledged a conspiracy to commit tax fraud. So he didn't make that up.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
It is literally melting off the walls and puddling.
But if she cleaned it with something that
That's not
causes the
cleaning.
paint to peel off,
because
there's
you
nothing I can do
put the
about it,
wrong
Your Honor.
product on it.
There is no question that some of that job is sloppy.
No, ma'am.
It was sloppy.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy.
Rebecca Redinger says painter William Payne damaged the interior of her home when he painted it.
I'm telling you, nobody stands there and acknowledges the commission of tax fraud unless there's a reason.
It's for tax purposes, correct?
It was for tax purposes.
Yeah.
You asked him to put it in the next year. That you asked him, instead of the bill being in November, to put it in the first of the year. Okay, but the work was completed November 19th?
Yes, ma'am.
And that went beyond the scope of the original job.
Yes, ma'am, it did.
Now we're 2 years later. You paid him for the work. Now 2 years later, you're complaining that the work was sloppy and you want all your money back. You know that that's not going to happen. And I'm telling you that that's not going to happen unless all the paint peeled off all the walls.
The paint did peel off the walls, bubbled up.
No.
Tore.
Unless the paint peeled off all the walls, which you'll show me, and I don't want to see little tiny pictures. I want to see a paint job in a house where it doesn't look like it's been painted. Fine.
We have
Let
a
me
video
see.
for that.
Great. I'd like to see it. When was this taken? What month?
It was taken just prior to us coming here.
So it was taken 2 years later.
Well, I've got pictures throughout,
was
but yes,
taken-
this video
it was
for
taken
today
2
was
years
taken
later.
the other day before we came.
Ma'am, I'm not aware of any
This
videos.
is showing, he has all of these pictures.
I don't
This
believe-
is showing an upstairs hallway door. So there was 5 doors total that are original wooden trim to the home.
Do me a favor.
Oh, you don't want me to tell you about it?
No.
Oh, okay.
Got it. Next. I don't know what that is.
I don't
That's
either.
the bathroom floor that's covered in paint spatter.
Covered
That's
in
the
what?
paint that's literally melting off the walls. So you asked if it's peeling. It's melting. That's puddles. 2 weeks after I'd already cleaned the top of that trim. It is literally melting off the walls and puddling.
But if she cleaned it with something that
That's not
causes
cleaning.
the paint
That
to
is
peel off,
because
there's
you
nothing
put
I can
the
do
wrong
about it, Your
product
Honor.
on it.
There is no question that some of that job is sloppy.
No, ma'am. There is no question
I have
that it was
text
not
messages.
sloppy.
Just a second. Well, what I saw was not properly mask taped so that it was sloppy.
Yes, ma'am. Some places were sloppy. but
That's what.
things,
Just a second.
But things were already done before we were there. by
That's
then.
not true.
Shh,
That is
don't
not
speak.
true.
Listen to me.
Yes,
I'm
ma'am.
speaking to him. Don't speak.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
There is still a couple of things I need help with.
Yes, ma'am.
That's not a question.
Oh, I'm
reading
sorry.
something.
I'm sorry.
How much would you charge?
Yes, ma'am.
I didn't ask you a question. You're annoying.
I'm sorry.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy.
Rebecca Redinger says painter William Payne damaged the interior of her home when he painted it.
Is what you're telling me that what she's showing me is not work that you did?
Some of that is not things that we did, Your Honor.
Let's start the tape again, please.
Some of those
I'm
things.
sorry. Just a second. You're going to tell me what it is that she has shown me on this video. This looks as if the door was closed before the paint was dry.
Yes, ma'am. That's what it looks like. But we did not close the doors before the paint was dry. The doors were
Now, what
left
is,
open.
just a second. Now, what is that?
That is where on
I
the
have
top
no
of that door.
No. I'm asking.
Okay, I'm sorry.
I didn't ask you. What is that, sir?
I have no idea.
Now you can tell me. What is that?
That is one of the doors where it was closed, and the paint actually pulled the wood and the paint off of the door and the trim, so it literally separated, and that whole strip
Okay.
down there,
Now,
gone.
sir, that's messy, you see. Do you see what I mean on the doorknob?
Yes, ma'am. But we did not do
It's
that.
Just a
devastating.
second. And there?
Yes, ma'am. We did not do that.
Well, you didn't paint
Who
that
did it?
room? Don't speak. You didn't paint that door?
We painted the door, Your Honor. We did not paint the doorknob. Some of the painting in her house had already been done before we ever came there.
That door was
she
never
did it
white.
herself, her family and her, and
He's
this
lying.
was the story she told me from the very first day I went, that her and her family had painted this house and taken care of this house for years. When I went to her home, things were sloppy already. I did not contract to clean up the mess that was already there at the house. And I have texts from her multiple times saying that the walls were happy, that she liked
The
everything
paint
we
color.
did.
I don't speak.
And that Everything, according to her text, her exact words was, "It is gorgeous. I don't even like to go anywhere else."
On what date?
This is on Monday, November the 27th of 2017.
May I see it, please?
Sure.
Can I get a copy of that too, please?
You have the text of it.
Well, this is the end of November after he had finished painting. There is still a couple of things I need help with.
Yes, ma'am.
That's not a question.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Something.
I'm sorry.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. Have you been cheated? Go to judgejudy.com. Like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter.
Bill, there are still a couple of things I need help with. I need the kitchen faucet replaced and the hinges on the bathroom cabinet and a handrail installed. There are a few electrical outlets that didn't get the covers put back on, and my closet door was not painted. How much would you charge?
Yes, ma'am.
I didn't ask you a question. You're annoying.
I'm sorry.
And he says, you're talking about the handrail for the stairs. You say yes. How much would you charge to finish those things? Mr. Reno will be done for now once I get these last few things done. It is gorgeous. I don't even like to go anywhere else. That's what you said to him.
That's in regard to the color on the walls and the cheeriness and brightfulness. It went from a dark metal gray to the red. And I was asking him to install...
This is after he did all.
Yeah.
This is after he did all the painting.
Correct. Yes.
Yeah. You don't get any money back. I'm sorry, but don't recommend him again if you don't like him. We're done. Thank you. Your case is dismissed.
Parties are excused when they step out.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And on the next Judge Judy.
When things started really appearing to fall to pieces, I made myself available.
Well, I'm glad it's over with. It was a big ordeal that was made into something that was not.
2 times, waited for him. He didn't show up. He didn't call. He didn't text.
Because I did go twice to her home and talk to her and walk through and look at the things she wanted done.
I've talked about doing a walkthrough with him. I think it was 11 times between text and emails.
But every time I tried to come back, she told me no. She was either tired, she was sick.
Talking about the things that were wrong and him promising 14 times.
She was busy, blah, blah, blah. And that went on for many, many, many weeks.
I'll fix it, we'll fix it, we'll fix it. And then just never showing up.
I went out of my way to try to do something for her and to help her out.
But then it just got too big for me to handle.
And she just wanted to take advantage of me. And I'm glad Judge Judy saw through that.
As soon as we heard it, it attacked me.
A boy relives his horror.
The dog wouldn't let go. It attacked me by my ankle and it took me down. It kept attaching itself to another part of my body.
Your son was seriously injured.
Yes.
And a neighbor tempts fate.
Were you directed to have your dog muzzled?
The muzzle was loose right here on the side.
Well, if it came loose, it's as good as not having it.
Judge Judy.
You are about to enter the courtroom of Judge Judith Scheindlin. This is Judge Judy.
Sharina Edwards is suing Raymond Montgomery for damages resulting from a dog attack.
Order. All rise. Yeah, it's case number 205 on the calendar in the matter of Edwards versus Montgomery. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Folks, have a seat.
Miss Edwards, Mr. Montgomery's dog bit your son.
Yes.
I assume this is your son.
Yes.
This happened in what month and year?
September 2016.
Your son was seriously injured.
Yes.
Had surgeries?
Stitches.
How many?
If I had to count, it would probably be about 50.
Do you have photographs of him?
I have photographs of the injuries.
I'd like to see them. He was bitten on the leg?
Yes, the foot, the leg, the stomach, and the arm.
Your dog that bit Mrs. Edwards' son has bitten before.
Yeah, he's got into an altercation with another dog.
He got an altercation with another dog when?
Probably about 2 months before that.
What kind of a dog do you have?
He's a Carso.
How much does he weigh?
Possibly about 100 and something pounds.
Maybe 140,
Just a second. it's either 105 pounds or 155 pounds.
140.
Were you directed to have your dog muzzled at all times outside?
Yes.
Who gave you that direction?
Courts.
Which court directed you to keep the dog muzzled at all times?
City of Cincinnati.
How old is the dog?
Now he's about 4 years old.
How old was he when you got him?
For about 3 years old.
Where did you get him from?
I had him since he was a baby. It was my son's dog.
So you've had him since he was a puppy?
Right.
And he's 4 now?
Right.
You have another dog?
I have a little bitty one, yeah, little baby.
What kind?
It's a mixture between a little hound and I guess a little bird dog or something. I guess it was.
How old is that dog?
She's not even a good year yet.
Okay. Now, you were walking both dogs
Yes,
in
ma'am.
September?
Yes, ma'am.
What time of the evening?
It's around about 10, 11 o'clock, somewhere around there.
What kind of a muzzle do you have for the dog?
But it's a muzzle that covers the front of the mouth. But by him playing with the other dog, the muzzle was loose right here on the side.
It came loose on the side because of your other dog?
Yeah, right.
Well, if it came loose, it's as good as not having it.
It's true.
So you were ordered by the court to keep your dog muzzled at all times. So when you were walking the dog in September, you were walking your dog in violation of the court order. Because there's no point in having a muzzle if it doesn't work, right?
Correct.
Were you also ordered by the court, Mr. Montgomery, to have homeowners insurance that covered your dog?
Well, I don't own a home, but I was supposed to have insurance.
What kind of insurance were you supposed to have? May I see that, please, Bert?
This one right here.
I assume they dropped the insurance because you stopped paying for it.
That was after the fact.
You were supposed to have insurance from April of 2016 to April of 2017.
Right. I don't have the dog anymore.
I don't care.
Oh, okay.
This incident happened in September of 2016, so you were supposed to have insurance. So is what you're telling me that you didn't pay the insurance? You showed the court that you had gotten insurance, but you stopped paying for it. Am I right? I mean, am I making things up? So you had to do two things. Your dog had to be muzzled at all times, and you had to show the court that you had insurance,
Right.
which you showed them. The only problem is you didn't pay for the insurance.
Right.
Right. Next to your mom. Tell me your first name.
Javier.
Tell me what happened in September of last year.
On September of last year, me, my friends, and my sister, we were at the park. We arrived at the park around 7 o'clock, and we left when it hit dark at 8. As we were walking home, my sister and one of my friends had a race, and they were already out the gate. But me and two more of my friends, we were still walking. We didn't see the dog because it was dark, but we heard the dog, and as soon as we heard it, it attacked me. It attacked me by my ankle, and it took me down. It bit through my shoe, and the owner, he jumped on the dog, telling it to let go. As I was hitting it, the dog wouldn't let go. Another dog ran after one of my friends, but it didn't attack him.
The little dog?
Yes. So my friends came over to help get the dog off. It let go, and then it kept attaching itself to another part of my body.
Was the dog on a leash?
No.
Now, the other little dog chased your friend.
Yes.
Is that right? So
Yes.
the other little dog clearly was not on a leash.
Yes.
Why wasn't the other dog on a leash?
It was a puppy. It was a baby.
So what?
That's true.
Where's the dog now?
He's been euthanized.
Okay. Mr. Montgomery, do you own your own home or do you rent?
Rent.
Do you work?
No, not right now. I'm not.
How do you support yourself?
I'm trying to go get my Social Security because of my back injuries.
How do you support yourself now?
Right now, I stay with my girlfriend. She helps me.
Mr. Montgomery, you're lucky you don't have a house. You're lucky you don't have any other property because it would be subject to attachment. Your conduct was outrageous and caused severe injury to this young man who suffered a lot as a result of your negligence. You understand that?
Yes, ma'am.
Maximum jurisdiction of this court, Miss Edwards, is $5,000, which I'm awarding you on behalf of your son. Put the money away for him. Thank you. Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I think he got startled
It was very frightening.
because he was surprised to see him coming across the field.
I didn't see the dog, and when it took me down,
I had to hit him a couple of times. He eventually came to Lewis.
I was frightened. I was in pain.
I'm just sorry that it happened, have some of them apologies.
If it was on a leash and a muzzle, this attack would have never occurred.
Mary Favre and Jason Stockton are suing Mary's brother, Michael Manry,
for medical bills and personal belongings.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Hello, Judge. Case 2117, Forrest Stockton versus Manry.
Thank you, Kevin. Mr. Manry, this is your sister.
Correct.
And that is her
Fiance.
And you have a son who is 19.
Yes, Your Honor.
How many other children do you have?
I have 3 altogether.
How old?
One is almost 30, the other one is 18, and then I got the 19-year-old, which one here.
Okay. And your son, who is now 19, is the subject of this case. Who had custody of the children?
I got custody of Dakota now.
When did you get custody of the children?
Only when he was 18 years old.
Do you have those papers, sir?
Yes, I do.
May I see them, please? Okay, so this grants you, sir, legal and physical custody of Dakota Manry until further order of the court. So what this case is about now, and I assume from what I've read, that Dakota has certain special needs.
Yes, ma'am.
And because of his special needs, he is unemployed. Did he finish any sort of a high school?
He graduated.
He graduated from
Yes.
high school?
Yes.
Did he go to a special school?
He went to a regular school, but he was in special education.
And when he graduated, did he graduate when he was living with you?
Yes.
Okay, so this is what your case is about. At some point, according to you, you have a niece. And your niece wanted to have Dakota come and stay with her for a couple of days. You were at the time, according to your answer, sort of in between residences. You were evicted from one place and going someplace else?
I was in the process of moving. I got my niece to go with me to, ask her if she'll bring me to go get Dakota by my cousin's house. And she said, sure.
Okay. Dakota went to live for a few days, at least, at your niece's house.
No, not live there. No, not live there. No, ma'am.
Well, he was there overnight.
He was over there overnight.
How many nights was he there overnight?
I think about maybe a week. I was supposed to be
Okay.
3 days.
So he was there.
Yeah.
During that time, you, who are his aunt,
yes, ma'am,
went to your niece's house, and you saw Dakota concerned because, according to you, it looked like he hadn't showered in a week.
He was in dirty clothes. He just looked awful.
So you decided to take him to live with you.
I asked him, I said, do you want him to the house to stay, a little while, where he can eat and all that, because he looked like he hadn't ate either.
Okay. Well, this is what your case is about. You decided to take him, didn't discuss it with his father. During the time he was with you, he had some expenses. You want his father to be responsible for those expenses, and you want his father to return certain of his personal property. That's what the case is about.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. First, let me deal with all things legal. I have an order here dated January 21st, 2021, which grants physical and legal custody of Dakota to his father. Do you have any subsequent order granting you custody or guardianship, is my question.
I have power of attorney.
That is not the same thing. Can I see what they have?
Power of attorney when I didn't give her permission. I got custody. Okay.
Okay, this was signed by Dakota, so he's giving you legal power to act on his behalf.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, Dakota, by signing this power of attorney, he's saying that I am a whole person, and I give you the right to make medical decisions for me if he can't do them. It's a general power of attorney in case he becomes unable to make decisions on his own. This is an order of custody. You have power of attorney. Power of attorney suggests to me that Dakota wants to emancipate himself from his father, wants someone else to act on his behalf. It becomes a complex question because if Dakota has special needs and if he can't act on his own, and a court has already ruled that his father should have custody of him, either you have a power of attorney and he's emancipated, in which case his father's not responsible for any of his medical bills, or this is invalid because he doesn't have the mental capacity to understand all of the implications of this power of attorney. Now, your nephew was in special classes.
Yes, ma'am.
And do you know what the nature of his disabilities are?
Fetal alcohol syndrome.
Is that his diagnosis, sir?
Yes, Your Honor.
He had, according to you, after you took him from your niece's house, and you do acknowledge you took him without his father's permission.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
We was not talking, me and him.
It doesn't make any sense if you were talking or not.
I didn't have his number, and I asked Dakota, I said, text your daddy to let him know you're coming with me. Dakota said, and he showed me where he texted Michael. Now, I don't know if it was on a different Facebook page.
No, it's your responsibility to notify his guardian, who has custody, that you have taken physical custody of him.
Right.
And when did you take physical custody of him? Give me the month, day, and year.
May 20th of this year, 2022.
Now, while you had physical custody of Dakota, you indicate that he had surgery.
Yes, ma'am.
And part of what you want Mr. Manry to pay for is the ambulance bill. What kind of surgery did he have?
Brain surgery, and he had a feeding tube put in him.
Just a second. What caused you to take him to a hospital or to a doctor?
Your Honor, when he arrived at the house on the 20th, he had very bad slurred speech, and his balance was completely off. He was falling over. Your Honor, it was like he was a drunken man.
Let me go back to you for a second, sir. While Dakota was with you in the months just prior to May, did you notice Dakota having difficulty in his gait?
Not like he was explaining to me, I was going overboard.
No, did you?
But his balance was off, okay.
Did you inquire? Did you take him to the doctor?
I did. I took him, actually, right after I got him.
So you saw that balance was off a while ago?
When I noticed that he had headaches, all right, because his dream, that, thanks to me, was wrestling. He loves wrestling. I put him in wrestling. I talked to the promoters, and I did that for him. But when I seen every time he got body slammed, you know, and this and that, I had to take him out of it. I got concerned because he was complaining of headaches. So I made him an appointment, and I waited for a referral. Well, when the referral came in, my kid was kidnapped.
So he never actually saw the second doctor?
No.
Okay. Do you have any records?
When it went wrong, my kid died doing surgery. I couldn't even be there for him and all that. Anything could have happened.
Just a second. I'm following you, sir. Now, when did you take him for this brain surgery?
I took him the first week of June. I took him to do a CAT scan, and as soon as she did that, we went to the hospital. We didn't leave the hospital. They put him in the ER, and from the ER, we went to Florence, Alabama, and then the surgeons there couldn't do it because it was so big.
What was so big?
Your Honor, they found a mass the size of a grapefruit. The first week, Dakota came to stay with us after we noticed the balance issues and the slurred speech. She took him to doctor who diagnosed him with being severely malnutritioned. Your Honor, when he came to my house, his
liar.
No.
Okay, I'm sorry. Your Honor, sorry, my apologies.
His leg was no bigger round than my wrist.
I got it. Mr. Manry, everything has to be put in perspective. You had a lot of things going on. And if Mr. Stockton's reporting to me is accurate, even though there might be some bad feeling of the way your sister and her fiancé took physical custody of Dakota, you really have to be in a position to say thank you to them, because you, for whatever reason, not for lack of trying, nobody is suggesting for lack of trying, you did try to take him to a doctor, you did see that there were things wrong with him. I understand that it's not always that easy to get the right specialist to get involved in this kind of surgery, but you really have to take a breath. Yeah. And I assume it's accurate, because I cannot assume that anybody would perform brain surgery on a child that was not necessary. That
okay, why she couldn't call me?
She should. Just a second. Just a second. Your sister should have called you and told you that Dakota was going into the hospital to have surgery. That would have been the nice thing to do. Did you do that?
She did.
No, she did not.
She called.
I called my mother.
Well, calling your mother.
His phone was disconnected. I did not have the new number until he called me or texted me with a bunch of drama. That's when I got his number.
You took my kid from me. You kidnapped my son no matter what.
Mr. Manry, what I want you to do is just take a breath for a moment.
Yes, ma'am. You know, he kept on like video chatting me and everything, and then all of a sudden, like a light switch, he changed and everything. The boy's mind's being poisoned by Mary. And
No, so far, Mr. Manry, you're not losing this case, so I don't know what you're agitated about.
Mary Favre and Jason Stockton claim Mary's brother, Michael Manry, owes for medical bills and personal belongings. Michael is countersuing, saying they illegally took his son from his custody.
Mr. Manry, Dakota was only at your niece's house for a short while. You already told me that when he came to you, his gate was off. So right before he went to stay for a couple of days at your niece's house, was his speech slurring?
No, he always had a speech impairment because of the disability, but his speech was not slurred at all. That is a lie. Him having the skinny arms and all, that's all
Okay,
lie.
I'm not talking about skinny arms. I'm talking about this his slurred speech. What I was saying to you, Mr. Manry, is that I don't think there are any bad guys here. I don't think that you're a bad guy. And I don't think that your sister and her fiancé meant any harm when they saw a situation that they thought was dangerous. And as it turned out, they were able to get him seriously needed medical care. That doesn't mean it was all done right. But what you're asking for is to be compensated by the defendant for the cost of the ambulance bill that you incurred. Now, this power of attorney was signed by Dakota, if in fact he had capacity to sign this power of attorney. It was done 2 weeks after his first surgery. So up until that time, even if I could construe this as a valid document, his father had legal and physical custody of Dakota. And I assume that's because he had special needs and is unable to live on his own. Is your son able to live on his own?
No, he never will.
Okay, so that's what I assume as a result of this order. If you want this order changed, you have to go back to the court in Mississippi. You have to be declared his guardian.
Your Honor, we did not want to be declared his guardian. The reason the POA came about to start with, during the entire surgical...
Your Honor, can I say something?
Actually present at most all of the appointments.
It doesn't matter. The mother doesn't have custody, legal or physical.
We were under the impression, and were told she did, that he only had a temporary custody. So she showed up to say she had to sign all the documents. She was going to do this. She was going to do this. She was going to do this.
Did she sign the documents?
She signed some. Then under social services directions, Mary was informed she should go after a power of attorney. It was discussed with both Dakota and her.
It may be. That's not a lawyer. That's bad advice. Now, just before I get to the issue of clothing, property, whatever he has that's at your house, and where it should go from here, your first stop is to go back to the court in Mississippi that issued this order and say to them, I need Dakota's law guardian. He'll be appointed a guardian for himself, independent of you, and they will interview him and they will do certain evaluations of him and determine where it is that he wants to live. But you have to do that in court. You can't do that ad hoc because you relied on his mother's statements that she had the authority to sign off on these things. She did not until this is changed. And if you want to change it, you are free to go in and try, and then Dakota will be interviewed and seen by a psychologist or a psychiatrist, and he'll have a medical evaluation and determine whether or not he is a person who actually requires guardianship. And if he requires guardianship, you can petition for that, and you'll have a trial. This is not that trial.
Yes, ma'am.
Did Dakota have Medicare?
Medicaid.
He had Medicaid.
That would pay for the ambulance ride.
Yeah, I just want to know if he had Medicaid. He did.
I did give them the Medicaid number, and they keep sending me a bill, and I called them, and they said because it's a different state, it's not covered.
It doesn't matter. Tell them to send their bills to his father. Tell them that you do not have custody or guardianship of this child. His father has custody, guardianship, and this bill is not yours.
The bill is going to Dakota. They're going after Dakota for it. His Medicaid didn't pay for it.
They may be going after Dakota for it. They will be very smart seeking payment from people who can pay them. which is his parents. Right now, you're not legally responsible to pay for his ambulance. Responsible for it is his father, and that will be up to the ambulance company to do. This is not your responsibility at all. So discount the ambulance bill. Next to Dakota's things, you want property that he has in his father's house. So let me go back to you with regard to my statement to you 4 minutes ago. You have to have this custody order modified. You have to go back to the same court that issued a legal and physical custody order of Dakota to his father and say, we would like guardianship of him. He wants to stay with us. He's 19 years old. He will be interviewed. He'll be analyzed. And if at the end of the day you get guardianship of Dakota, then his father may or may not turn over whatever property he has. Dakota's never worked. So whatever property he has was either purchased or given to him by either his mother or his father or other relatives.
A lot of it was his mom that paid for the stuff.
I don't know that.
No, the bottom line is why all this balls down through yonder.
So far, Mr. Manry, you're not losing this case, so I don't know what you're agitated about. You're not losing. You're not losing. What I'm telling the plaintiffs is that if they think that they can provide a more pleasant, stable environment for Dakota, they have the right to petition for guardianship of him. Now, it would be in Dakota's best interest long-term if he were to have contact with both his mother and his father. Contact. I'm not saying live with. Mother, father, and his aunt, and his soon-to-be uncle, as soon as you make up your mind and give her a ring. It's in his best interest. He needs the largest community that he can.
I agree.
Okay, we're going to stop throwing barbs because that only serves to inflame already raw emotions. I want you to say, I am angry that I wasn't consulted in this massive surgery that your son had, but I'm grateful that it was done, because if it wasn't done, in all probability, he wouldn't be here. You just have to think about that.
Mary Favre and Jason Stockton have accused Mary's brother, Michael Manry, of owing for an ambulance bill. Michael claims Mary and Jason took his son without his permission.
What I'm telling you is have to go. You can't sue him for the return of Dakota's things unless you have guardianship of Dakota.
Understood.
Because he already is the subject of a recent order of custody from a court. That's what you have to have. You can take that bill from the ambulance service, put it in an envelope, we'll get you the address, and that's where that goes. That's his father, who is his legal parent under this order. So send that bill to them so you don't have to worry about that bill. As far as his property is concerned, that has to go along with an order of custody or guardianship, and that's something that you should do. But, Mr. Manry, I am not making a decision with regard to his custody or not. What I'm asking you is, until a court reviews whatever orders they're going to make with regard to custody and guardianship, first, I know you may be angry, but they probably saved his life by getting him to the doctor that they did. And if they removed a massive tumor from his brain, you should say, thank you for doing that, because it was a month after he was living with you. Someone else took your son and saved his life. And for that, at least, you have to be grateful. You can be angry. You can be angry that you didn't get it done before. You can be angry that somebody else did it without consulting you. You can be angry at all of those things. But at the same time, you have to feel grateful that it was done.
There wasn't no reason they kidnapped my son.
Okay. Mr. Manry, you keep going back to the same song.
I was worried about
You keep going back to the same song. And what I'm saying to you is, their next stop, if Dakota wants to live with them, and he's right now over 19 years old, is to the court who issued the order to modify that order. All I'm saying to you is, I want you to say, I am angry that I wasn't consulted or didn't participate in this massive surgery that your son had. But I'm grateful that it was done, because if it wasn't done, in all probability, he wouldn't be here. You just have to think about that. What I'm telling you is, you have to love your child more than you, at this moment, dislike your sister and her fiancé, because they were able to take control of a situation and get your child fixed. So is Dakota, just for my own, is Dakota angry with his father?
He is correct. He is a huge wrestling fanatic.
Okay. What particularly does he want? He wants his wrestling?
He wants his wrestling belts. They have replica belts that were made. He wanted his PlayStation 4 and the wrestling game.
PlayStation 4, I'm not interested in that. He wants his wrestling belts.
Yes, ma'am.
Yana, can I show you something right quick on my phone? Dakota kept texting me, you know, he kept on like video chatting me and everything. And then all of a sudden, like a light switch, he changed and everything. The boy's mind's being poisoned by Mary and Jason.
What I'm telling you, Mr. Manry, that's for another court and another day. When Dakota has a lawyer, you may have a lawyer to modify this custody order. Right now, he would like his wrestling belts.
Oh, I want my son to come home.
Okay, then I strongly urge you to go to the court, file a petition against them for custodial interference, or you go to court and file an application for guardianship of Dakota, which is a much more positive thing to do, and let a court that has the social work services, the psychiatric services, evaluate Dakota and figure out in whose best interests are we supposed to place faith. And I think if he is a thinking young man, and you told me that he is because he wants these things that are important to him, he should be able to have a say with whom he lives. Now, you have my ruling. Your next stop, folks, is to modify the order of the court in Mississippi that gave his father custody, physical and legal custody of him. You have to petition for guardianship. That's your next step. So, in that regard, your case is dismissed. Send the ambulance bill to his father.
I got a countersuit.
We're done.
Your Honor.
Yeah, I'm not hearing it, sir.
Okay. I did everything I can for my kids, and
My brother, he said nothing but lies.
when somebody takes your kid without your permission,
But, you know, that's him. I mean, that's what he does.
you don't know where they're at, and you're going crazy because you don't know where your kid's at, that's kidnapping.
I should get a thank you out of it, but he's not going to do that.
I want my son to come home to his daddy because I love him very much. That's my son.
It's about him. It's not about her. It's not about her and her brother. It's not about me and her brother.
My son, I love him. I'll do anything in the world for him.
It's about Dakota.
So you didn't listen to the defendant's counterclaim back there for emotional distress for, I believe it was $3,500. I would have given that to him. I don't think anyone was acting maliciously in this case. Like you said to the father, he should be grateful that his son is alive and his sister took action when he might have been stumbling a little bit, but action that was legally incorrect. And here, the plaintiffs had no legal right to take him to get that surgery. I agree that he should have had it and it all came from a good place. However, when you take an action that causes somebody else such severe emotional distress, and I would consider taking someone else's child in for the riskiest surgery that probably exists, qualifies as causing some severe emotional distress. So I probably would have awarded him that if I was ruling.
Well, so let me give you the reason that I didn't bother to hear it. I think the aunt and her fiance had nothing but pure motives in taking this 19-year-old who they say appeared to be malnourished and they say was diagnosed as being malnourished, which is possible. And it's possible that it was all related to this brain tumor that he clearly had that was impairing his stability. And he was with his father for a year while this tumor was growing. I don't think that they had malicious intent.
Neither do I.
And I think that but for their actions, this 19-year-old boy probably would be dead. If they took out the tumor that was the size of a grapefruit, I would say 6 months later or 8 months later, there's a strong probability that would affect the optic nerve, affect the carotid artery, and gone. So although I could understand his annoyance, from the time they went to live with him until his surgery was a month. And I actually don't believe that this father didn't know where he was for a month because they evidently have a living mother who they're both in touch with. He was moving around, phone disconnected. At the hospital, the mother showed up. She said, I can sign the documents. Well, you know, you're involved in major surgery for a child. Your focus is not on your brother, who did not take care of business for a year. So I'm going to leave that up to a family court judge to determine who should have custody, and I probably guarantee you that custody will remain with his aunt because that's what Dakota wants. Father may be angry, but that's what's going to happen. I have no doubt that the father loves him. He did not take good care of him for the year. And so I wasn't going to reward that by giving him any money against these people who had nothing but the child's best interests, when for a year he really didn't take care of business with his son. And that's why I didn't.
Denzel, all parties, please come forward.
Jamar Foster and Sean Garner are suing record producer Livin Manziel for event costs after Livin canceled their Halloween party.
Who's Mr. Garner? Mr. Foster?
Right here.
Are you going to be speaking? You're standing in the speaking spot.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, great. According to what I read, the defendant rents a music studio. Is that correct?
I rent a facility in which I own a music studio.
You rent in someone else's building?
Yes.
And you're recording people. During the course of your business, you decided to enter into an agreement with the defendant to use that recording studio, which she rents from that space, which she rents from a landlord.
May I correct you, please, Your Honor?
Yes.
She actually is a facility that has multiple units in it. She runs a studio, and then there's other event space inside of that same facility.
Okay. Give me an idea of how large the space is.
I believe we were quoted something like 5,800 square feet.
And so you have a music studio, and around it is other open space, sort of a business with her. You wanted to run events.
Yes, ma'am.
Social events, nothing to do with the music studio.
Absolutely not.
Is that correct?
Yes.
And according to you, you gave her $6,000.
Yes, ma'am.
Sort of front money to start using that space.
Yes, ma'am.
Subsequent to giving her the money, according to you, there were restrictions put on the space, on the number of people you could have, the kind of parties you could have, etc.
No, absolutely. I apologize.
Well, you have to pay attention,
okay,
sir, because what I'm suggesting is really in your favor.
Oh, okay. Let me. Okay.
So, is really in your favor, so you have to think.
Okay.
Subsequent to giving her, that means after giving her the money, restrictions were put on the kinds of events and the number of people you could have in the space. Is that true or not true?
That is absolutely true.
No, that's not.
I'll get to you in a second.
Okay.
And you want what it's about. The defendant does not deny that you gave her $6,000. And then I'm going to hear what her defense is. So I want you to tell me, when, for the first time, did you have a discussion with the defendant about going into this business venture where you would front the money and whatever events you would have there, you would reap the benefit, the financial benefit from that? When did you have that discussion with her?
Okay, so we met Livin at the end of August of 2022. We actually signed the agreement pretty fast. We signed the contract agreement on September 1st.
May I see the agreement?
Yes, ma'am.
There was no agreement signed, so I don't know how it could be signed.
She keeps arguing that.
Just a second. Could you be quiet?
Yes, ma'am.
So in your hands.
Shh. What's?
That's the studio that she runs.
Sarah, you have to sort of explain it, because I don't see signatures. You know, I'm used to looking at contracts where people sign things, but I know you can sign things by DocuSign.
That looks like a signature from a DocuSign or some sort of online.
Okay. Is that you?
This was a proposal that I did. I do not even own it yet as a DBA.
Just a second. It's getting better. Don't say anything. This is your proposal. Now I'm going to read it.
Okay.
And your masterpiece management.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Well, so this is sort of easy. You prepared this proposal. Speak.
Yes, after.
Just a second. Okay. You prepared this proposal.
Yes, ma'am.
And as a result of this proposal, you received and deposited $6,000.
Yes.
Yes. Well, then you have a binding contract. Okay? So that's what I'm telling you. You have a binding contract. And there is nothing in this contract that limits the kinds of events or the number of people or anything else with regard to this space. All it says is business activities, event planning, and event rentals. Nothing else. And this is your proposal, so the terms of it are construed. Since you prepared the agreement, which became a contract once you accepted their $6,000, I view the terms of the agreement most harshly against you because you prepared the document. And it says, this agreement cannot be amended without the written consent of all parties.
Yes.
Yes. So signed the agreement, you got the money, and then at some point, according to them and according to you, you made certain limitations on the kinds of events, the numbers of people, etc.
That is...
Now that happened, according to you, because you do not own that space, you rent that space, and there was a problem with the first party that they threw.
Correct.
Come on, we're not talking about Gone with the Wind here. We're not talking about a 6-volume masterpiece. We're talking about a yes or a no. Based upon this proposal, they gave you $6,000, which you deposited into your bank account. That means a contract was created. Oh, that's the agreement. I'm telling you, that's the law.
Jamar Foster and Sean Garner claim record producer Livin Manziel broke their agreement by canceling their events. Livin is countersuing for the costs of a recording set.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and after that party that got out of hand, too many people or whatever it was, your landlord complained.
Yes.
Okay, and it was after that that you told your 2 partners that
We are not partners.
Yeah, according to this, you are.
We didn't finalize the agreement.
This is a finalized agreement, madam. I just said to you, I want you to pay attention. This is your proposal. Based upon this proposal, they gave you $6,000, which you deposited into your bank account. That means a contract was created. That's the agreement. I'm telling you, that's the law.
Okay.
You prepared the proposal, you signed it, they said, okay, and they fulfilled their part of the agreement by giving you $6,000, which you accepted. Got it? Got it? And you can't, according to the agreement that you prepared, modify this agreement any other way than a written contract signed by both parties. You can't change the rules.
Do you have all of the details about the place?
Well, see, next time you should know what you're dealing with, whether she's the owner or whether she's not the owner, whether she's a renter, whether she has the ability to rent out to sublease for events. I mean, all of these things, before you give somebody $6,000, you should know that. Okay. And you had one event at the space?
No, we actually didn't get an opportunity to throw any events at the space at all. The event that you were speaking of, she had partnered with another group of promoters and individuals to throw that party. So you
didn't have anything to do with that? What was it, a Halloween party or something? It was a Halloween party, but that wasn't with you.
No, that wasn't.
Is that correct?
He was a part of the event.
Is that correct, that it was with other people?
Yes, it was correct. It was with other people. They were just associated with the event. They worked at the event. And
I don't care whether they worked at the event. You received money from other people for an event.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, let's be clear. And after that event, you imposed additional restrictions on the use of the space.
No,
hold on a second.
They knew about the event.
Hold on. They can't tell me what they knew. This is your contract.
They called a fire marshal.
Complaining, people were parking on their lawns 90 minutes into the party, but it was not their party. Somebody else paid you for it. The next party they wanted to throw involved minors, and I told them absolutely not.
Yes, ma'am.
I just made it clear what types of events would be approved. Well, you can't do that. I'm just telling you, you can't do that.
Ma'am, I'm not allowed to throw events that have out drugs for children.
You have to understand something. You can do whatever you want as long as you put it in a contract. You prepared the contract. This contract is silent as to any restrictions on the space for events. So you have to give them their $6,000 back because they didn't have an event. They got nothing of value for their $6,000.
Correction. They were managing an artist whenever I met them that they were responsible for paying. So I'm countersuing them for $1,050.
Just a second.
Okay.
$6,000 case. Now, you have a counterclaim, and your counterclaim is for $1,000 because you say they owe you that for a rental that they did for an artist that they manage.
I provided my services as a recording artist and a music producer for their artists. I provided them with 2 exclusive beats.
Well, show me the contract with them.
I have.
Just show me the contract with them.
There was no contract.
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $6,000. Counterclaim dismissed. We're done. Thank you very
Court
much.
is adjourned.
I was just trying to have a proposal, not a finalized agreement.
Well, I appreciate us getting some type of justice out of the situation.
They came in wanting to do multiple things, and I was excited for my small business.
We tried as much as we could to help out and make sure that we increase the revenue streams inside of that business.
They're actually going to be hosting hookahs with children at your event, in your space. I'm not comfortable with that.
To ever associate us with any type of drug use or abuse, especially involving children, that was just an inaccurate claim.
I think it's better just to part ways.
Move over to bigger and better things.
I was going to tell you I had the invitation, per se, for the event for Halloween that they had put together. So they put a lot of time and effort into planning the party. It seemed very legitimate. There was notes about security provided, so I could tell that they had put in a lot of effort to hosting this event. And although it wasn't a malicious breach on the defendant's part, I understand she hosted a party that had nothing to do with the plaintiffs, that she got into a little bit of hot water, so to be cautious, she was letting them know, hey, I can't host these types of events with a lot of people, it makes the street too crowded, whatever the reason. However, I disagree with you because I would have given them the full $10,000 that they were asking because although not a malicious breach, and I understand her concern after having the incident with the previous party, but that's not their fault.
You believe that the difference between the cost of one venue to another should be ascribed to them. It's interesting, but the $6,000 was to cover a lot of events. This is one event. So
I see your point now that you put it that way.
Maybe.
I just think if you were going to make them whole, they should receive their expectant damages as well, or whatever they relied on based on the contract.
I accept your opinion.
Hi, xin chào các bạn. Chào mừng các bạn đến với kênh của mình. Hôm nay chúng ta cùng tô màu cho bức tranh về một cậu bé đang trượt patin nhé. Chúng ta cùng bắt đầu thôi nào. Mình sẽ tô màu xanh nhạt và mũ. Áo mình cũng tô sọc mình màu xanh nhạt.
I offered for them to work with me